Afternoon, Cash.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Except the floods in Western Cape.
I know, man. It's crazy, eh?
Yes,
But
it is.
it looks a bit dry today.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, so you're not back home, eh? You're in the Western Cape.
I'm here in Western Cape.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
be going home when I got leave. Probably next month I'll be going home after we're
Okay.
done with things. Yes,
No, no.
yes.
You must enjoy.
Can visit my
Anyway,
mom at least to spend some time with her.
yeah, no, that'll be nice.
Yeah, thank you, Cash.
All right, man.
All right.
Hi, Enrico.
Afternoon, Gershwin. Are you?
I'm good, thanks. How's the preparations going for your trip?
It's going all right, but a lot of members cancelled. It's only four members, Gershwin.
Oh, okay.
It's only four members, yes.
All
So,
right.
Honorable Nonkunyana also called me earlier to say that he might also not be available for tomorrow.
Okay, okay.
So
Cool.
far, it's only four members that we're sitting with.
All right, no problem.
Okay, Gershwin.
Bye.
Cash.
Hi, Chair.
How are you?
Well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm not well, but I'm trying to relocate because of the bandwidth. So as soon
Okay.
as members are on the platform, just indicate so that we can start.
No
Because
problem,
I
Chair.
know
Noted.
some of them would be traveling today for tomorrow's session.
Correct. Noted, Chair.
Cash, 1 minute left, and can you fly the agenda? And please indicate if members are on the platform as well.
Will do, Chair. We've got Honourable Billy, Honourable Mokai, Honourable Gotzel, and yourself, Chair. Honourable Nonkanyan is just struggling to connect. I'll just help him quickly with that, Chair.
Okay. Then where are other members?
Recording in progress.
Chair, we've got apologies from Honourable Machobeni, Honourable Gerike, and
Okay.
Honourable Pala, Chair. I'll just follow up with Honourable Madupi.
All right.
Members are in, Chairperson.
Okay. Thank you, colleagues and honorable members. It's 12:30 on the dot. I want to declare this meeting officially opened. I hope this wind it doesn't distract you. Let me start by wishing Honorable Noe a happy birthday and happy new year, and I wish him the best full year of his new year and good life, good health, as usual, as the user of Herbal Life, continue doing what is good, healthy lifestyle, Honorable Pizzo. With that being said, I want to welcome the department, BMA, and as well the GPW, all the delegation led by Commissioner Michael Masiapato, BMA, and as well GPW led by CEO Alina Foxy. So we want to welcome you in this platform. And I hope you all noted that we did this because we wanted to accommodate the Deputy Minister as the person who was delegated to lead the delegation. However, with what has been sent to us, we have taken a decision that the meeting will continue, noting 2 apologies by DM and as well the Minister. We are happy that at least these 2 teams are being led by the accounting officers, and we all know that today we are dealing with strategic plans and as well APPs and the budget. So those that would take us through, at least we know that they would be the one who will be able to respond to issues that we'll be raising as the committee with regards to their presentation. Colleagues, we all know as we come to this meeting, we have received this presentation prior, and we hope that whoever would be taking us through won't be going word by word, but make sure that they don't leave whatever that we've been making inputs as we lead this particular sector, that our inputs must find expressions on your APPs, and where you think that you want to zoom in for us to get sense that as we've been engaging with yourselves during our oversight, you are taking note of what we are advising. Highlight to us as members. Members, without wasting time, one would want to request that I switch off my video because I have a running nose, so I don't want to be seen on platforms with something that are not in order. If permission is granted, I would like to switch off my video so that I can seamlessly continue with the meeting.
Yes. Agreed, Chair.
Honorable, okay, no, thank you. Ngoba angiphilanga, ngize ngingaphilanga, so I then decided ukuthi ngiqhube once ngomcimbi. Members, last year we met with the BMA, and during our oversight visit at Bedbridge, and we had some concerns in terms of the vast areas along the border which gave illegal immigrants access to South Africa. We are so happy to see that over the Easter period, the minister launched new technology in terms of the drones and body-worn camera technologies, which allows for better border control. The technology allows BMA to be able to detect those trying to gain entry during the day and the night. We congratulate the BMA on this advancement in technology to improve the safety of our borders, and hope to see this in action when we conduct an oversight over our borders during the course of this year. The BMA has only 2 programs, members, with a total budget of 1.8 billion in the current financial year of 2025-2026, which is an increase of about 402.2 million from 104 billion, which was allocated in the previous year of 2025. BMA is funded through the budget transfers from various departments, which had some of their staff members integrated into BMA. The transferred budget comprised of about 90% compensation of employment costs, leaving very little for the funding of goods and services. We note that BMA applied to National Treasury for an allocation of 2.9 billion in financial year 2023-2024, and was only approved an allocation of 250 million. We note a key spending focus for 2025, and it includes comprehensive deployment of technology aimed at automating and optimizing processes and enhancing the technology infrastructure at our ports of entry. We welcome the inclusion of the target in the APP of 100% illegal foreigners detected within the border law enforcement area deported, which lead to improved national security. We look forward into engaging on these matters today, Commissioner Masia Patu and CEO, in terms of making sure that we take trace of what we would do through this 2025-2026 financial year. With that being said, I would want Geshwal to take us through the apologies, and then we can get to our items. The meeting is officially opened.
Morning, Chair and members and colleagues. Thank you, Chair. In terms of the apologies, Chair, Honourable Machubeni is in the Eastern Cape attending to family commitments. Honourable Gericke is still at an EFF caucus, and Honourable Pala is flying at 12:30, Chair. And then both ministers apologise, Chairperson, they've got prior commitments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gesh. And as I give to the department, the reflections with regards to the GPW is that we last met with them as well during the budget hearing. And we have noted as well that GPW is slowly making progress in respect of a turnaround strategy and is embracing the digital landscape, which is our future. The overall budget of the GPW has slightly increased by 5.5% in nominal terms. In the year 2024-2025 financial year to 1.8 billion. In the current financial year, it will be 2025 to 2026. Sorry, The total expenditure projected to increase at an average annual rate of 4.1% from 1.8 billion in 2024-2025 to 2 billion in 2027-2028. The entity is set to generate 99.7% of its revenue over the medium term through its business operation. We'll take trace of this issue, members, around October to ensure that at least they do plan smart as the department. Would like to receive more information of the revenue, which GPW is information on the revenue is generating and how these funds are being used in the delivery of services. GPW also reports at 58% reduction of the irregular expenditure, and we would want to get sense with regards to these irregular expenditures, because as the committee, we are actually emphasizing that let people do these irregular expenditures through the confinements of the National Treasury regulations. We are excited to note GPW's footprint extension into SADC and other African countries. And we hope to hear more about this positive development and the move towards digitalization of services. With the local government election fast approaching, we would also want to understand the working relationship between GPW and IEC. As last year during our engagement, the committee recommended that GPW should work with the IEC in relation to its printing requirements for the election. We're looking forward to seeing this happening in this financial year as to we are towards the election of 2026. Now we'll go to the item number 1, of which we'll start with the BMA. Commissioner Michael Masiapato, you would lead the delegation. On my side, I forgot to actually introduce our team. We have Honorable Billy from KZN representing the DA, and Honorable Billy is the whip of the permanent delegate from KZN. And then we have Honorable Noe, who's from the Free State representing the ANC. And we have Honorable Nonkonyane from the Eastern Cape representing the ANC, and as well Honorable Nonkonyane is the whip of the committee. And we have Honorable Midupi representing the ANC from Northwest, and Honorable Mukai from Northern Cape representing the DA, and as well Honorable Mukai is the chairperson of Petition Committee and Undertakings. And we have Honorable Gotzel from the Western Cape. Honorable Gotzel from Western Cape represent the DA. These are the members who are on the platform in today's session, and we have our supporting staff with ourselves on the meeting. You can introduce, Commissioner, your team, as well as you do your presentation with regards to your APP's budget, so that at least we are able to follow through as the committee. I'm not sure what is happening with the person who's flighting something. Cash?
Chairperson, it's the
Yeah, our
BMA
screen is
that's...
very busy. It's very busy.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, thank you. All right, so members, just drop your comments on the chat, because I know some of you will be traveling. So as the meeting continues, if you feel that you'll be on a flight and you would want to some clarity seeking questions, just write on the chat so that members can then read your questions and respond as it when they do their presentation.
No, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and we appreciate this opportunity as the Border Management Authority And of course, as already indicated, my name is Mike Masia Pato, the Commissioner for the Border Management Authority. And of course, on the basis of the delegation to the meeting, let me just quickly go through the colleagues that are here. I'm accompanied by Assistant Commissioner Mkabela, who is responsible for border law enforcement and operations. Also accompanied by Assistant Commissioner Managa, who is responsible for ICT in the BMA. There is also the Deputy Commissioner for Operations, Madam Jane Tupana in the call. There is also Assistant Commissioner, Madam Foshie, who is responsible for the National Targeting Center. I'm also accompanied by the Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Jagavula, who is responsible for risk in the BMA, together with the Assistant Commissioner, Ramatuba, who is responsible for specialized functions in the BMA. And I also see, Assistant Commissioner Dubazana, who is responsible for corporate affairs, together with the Assistant Commissioner, Madam Zama, responsible for finance. So maybe just to indicate, Madam Chair, that in terms of the rendering of the presentation, I will be rendering the first part of the presentation. And of course, after that, the subsequent part that deals with the finances will then be rendered by the Assistant Commissioner, Madam Zama, responsible for finance. So before I start, Madam Chair, if you can confirm that the slides are on screen and the slides are also on slide mode so that I can start.
On slide mode, you can start, sir.
That's okay. That's okay. No, thank you very much, Madam Chair. As indicated, the purpose is just to bring to the attention of the members of the Select Committee on Security and Justice the BMA strategic plan for 2025-2030, but also the annual performance plan together with the budget for the current financial year, 2025-2026. So if we can then just look at the outline, as indicated, it is basically about the content of our strategic plan that is going to also demonstrate its linkage to the medium-term development plan and the outcomes thereof, and of course, the ultimate annual performance plan as indicated. Now, if we can then move to reflect on slide number 4, this is a basic slide that demonstrates the vision, the values, and the mission of the BMA, which is something that is fairly standard, which we might not want to worry about reciting to the members of the committee. Now, if we move into slide number 5, Honorable Chair, you will realize that in the past strat plan, we actually had around 4 outcomes, but this time around, from the current strat plan going forward, we have then split outcome number 3 and outcome number 4 into 2. Initially, they were kind of brought in together, as it were. And you will then realize there that we are now splitting the issues of having to improve the cross-border ecosystem for legitimate movement of goods, and we have split it in terms of the movement of persons. So in terms of outcome 1, 2, and 5, it had always been there, even in terms of the previous strat plan, as it were. So basically, this is some bit of an adjustment that we've made in our current strat plan going forward. In terms of slide number 6, as it is shown on the screen, this is just a demonstration of the alignment. In terms of the first column, it is the legislative footprint of the BMA in view of Section 5, which is about facilitating people movement, facilitating goods movement, but also doing the coordination of the work in terms of the other stakeholders in the ecosystem. Now, in the middle bracket, there we are demonstrating the priorities in terms of the country's medium-term development plan priorities. And to that extent, we can indicate that we are contributing to priority 1 as well as the priority 3 of the MTDP, as it were. And on that particular basis, the last part there demonstrates now the outcomes in terms of the ones that I've indicated earlier. So this is a demonstration that the work that we do, it is indeed aligned to the legislative mandate we carry, but also it is aligned in terms of the priorities of the country, and ultimately the outcomes that we have developed are fairly aligned to the priorities, as it were. Now, if we are to move to slide number 7, this is the slide that gives some bit of detail on what I've indicated earlier. And this is the contribution that we have as the BMA to the Medium-Term Development Plan 2024-2029. As indicated in the previous slide, we are contributing to inclusive growth and job creation, but we are also contributing to capable, ethical, as well as developmental state. But the most important issue to demonstrate here, Honorable Chair, particularly in view of priority 3 of the Medium-Term Development Plan, is the fact that there is a clear articulation there that as a country, we have to ensure effective border security, but more critically, we have to ensure that we deal with issues of transnational crime, but we also promote regional trade as well as the legal movement of people and goods. So that is basically the ultimate alignment as indicated earlier. So at the bottom part of the slide, it does demonstrate the strategic guidance that we had embraced from the ministerial footprint, as it were, in terms of the work that we need to do in the next 5 years in view of this current strategic plan provision. You will realize there that we want to advance very serious technological move as an organization, but also having to rethink our business processes, particularly because we have integrated multiple disciplines that actually emerge from the various government departments. And on that basis, that is what we are intensifying as we are in this current financial year going into the future. And so all of these issues here are things that are very much fundamental. If you look at the last one, is the whole issue about organizational culture, primarily because our integration of the various officials across the public service into the BMA, we then had to infuse all of those, I would say, kind of dispersed organizational cultures out of those departmental footprint into an organization of BMA stature, as it were. And that is why there is a lot of work that is done in terms of infusing those cultural issues, as it were. Now, if we can go straight into the 2030 outcome indicators as well as target. So what I will do, Honorable Chair, as you have indicated, we consider the documents distributed on time, and therefore I will not go conventional, but I'll keep it strategic, but ultimately making sure that all of the key issues are actually observed. Now, if we start with the slide number 1, in terms of the key issues that are sitting within our strategic plan, you will then be aware that one of the key outcomes that we have to be doing is institutional excellence. And in this instance, we are talking about having to ensure that we infuse digital transformation as well as good corporate governance. Now, some of the outcome indicators, as you can see, we are basically looking at the identified processes that has to be digitized within the organization, but ultimately realize what we call automation, as it were. Now, we are looking at ensuring that in the midterm of the 5 years that is to come, we are going to do that particular activity to a level of 60%. And of course, at the end of the term, we will then have 100% of that actually achieved, which is fairly the digitization of the various processes that we are to be doing as the BMA, but ultimately the realization of automation. If you look at the second outcome, again, is institutional excellence, but the indicator there is about the number of ports of entry that are to be having what we call biometric movement control system. So what this effectively means is that we have to ensure that we actually have our movement control system having the ability to take biometrics, as it were, in terms of the travelers, but more critically, facial recognition as well as iris. And we are saying that in the midterm of the next 5 years, we are going to be sitting at 41%. 41 of the ports with the 100% implemented biometric. And of course, at the end of the term is going to be 71 ports. And that is the totality of all of the ports that we have in the country. You will remember, Honorable Chair, that out of the 71 ports, we are talking about 52 being land, 10 being international airports, and 9 of those being seaports. Now, if we move to the next slide, slide number 10, we are then again looking at the same BMA outcome, which is institutional excellence. Here we are talking about organizational ethics we are looking at ensuring that we reach 100% point score in as far as organizational ethics is concerned, particularly because we have inherited an environment that has been very much popular with some element of inherent corruption. And that is why, to us, this becomes very much fundamental. So out of this, we are indicating that 30 out of 100 will then have a 100% point in terms of ethics score, in terms of the metrics that we have developed. And out of the end of the term, we'll have 80 out of 100, as it were, as we go forward. Now, if you look at the second one in this particular slide, is the issue relating to the audit opinion. In this particular instance, we can indicate that the current baseline, which is the 2024 one, is sitting at a qualified audit outcome. And that is the current reality in terms of the annual report of the Border Management Authority as published. And in this particular instance, we are saying in the midterm of the next 5 years, we want to be sitting at unqualified audit outcome or opinion. And ultimately, in the 5-year term, we are going to be realizing that at the end. And that will then become the posture going forward. Now, if we then move again to the next part of the slide, in here, again, we are now moving out of the institutional excellence, which is corporate-based, and now we are going towards the core business side. That is why you will see the outcome there is changing. We now talk about secure borders that protect national interest and also enhance national security. In this instance, you will then see there in terms of our outcome indicator, we talk about the detection of illegal crossings, particularly in the border law enforcement area. Here we talk about apprehension. And if you look at the medium term as well as the end of the term, we talk about 100% of persons being detected illegally crossing into the environment that we have to make sure that they are apprehended. If you look at the second part, there is now where we are now talking about the percentage of illegal goods. And again, you will see there that it is in line with the Section 5, as I've indicated, of the BMA Act. And in this instance, it's about the percentage of illegal goods detected at the border law enforcement area that has to be detected. We talk about 100% of those across the value chain from midterm to the end of the term. Now, if we then move further, again, you will see that the outcome there is shifting. We talk about improved cross-border ecosystem as indicated for the legitimate movement of goods. And of course, again, here we talk about 100% of those consignments that gets presented at the port to be processed in accordance with the service level agreement standards. And you will see there that we talk about 100% of those that has to be looked at. And that is why, if you look at the bottom one, is the percentage of consignments that has to be digitally processed. And of course, in this instance, we talk about in the midterm of the next 5 years is going to be 60% consignment that will then be digitally processed. And by the end of the 5-year term of the strat plan, we are looking at 100%, as it were. And that is basically the focus. Now, if you look at slide number 13 here, we're talking about the percentage of travelers at the port of entry that needs to be digitally processed. And once again, even in this instance, it still talks to the same in terms of goods. And that is why it's 60% in terms of this particular part, which is persons. And of course, going into 100% at the end of the term. If you look at the bottom part, we talk about the number of implementation protocols that have been operationalized. So this is one area, Honorable Chair and committee members, that is provided for in Section 27 of the BMA Act. And this is about the protocols that has to be put together with various other structures that we have to cooperate with as we do this particular work. And that is why, if you look at the medium term, we are basically saying that there will be one implementation of those protocols, but over time, it is then going to be 3 ultimately. And this is a very huge responsibility, and that is why you will see the targeting is very much conventional. It is on the basis of the work that needs to be done in this particular instance. So that is, in short, honorable members, the strategic plan for the BMA in view of the 2025 until 2030, as it were. Now, if we can then transition to reflect on the issue of the APP. On this particular aspect, Honorable Chair and the committee members, we need to give a bit of a disclaimer and indicate that the initial strategic plan as well as the annual performance plan that has been prepared during the course of the past financial year, preparing for 25-26, and until we submitted earlier in the year, we actually did the document in view of the possibility that BMA is going to be funded, and we were going to have some bit of additional funding from National Treasury. You will remember, Honorable Chair, as you have indicated in your opening remarks, that BMA, even at the point of its establishment in 2023, we had requested the funding of around 2.9 billion from the National Treasury or from the state, and that was on the basis of us to be able to establish the organization. Unfortunately, even at that time, we got only 250 million, and that was effectively 8 to 10% of what we requested. So out of that, we then did the second business case looking at 23, 2024, and then 24, 25. And now, obviously, we did another business case looking at 25, 26. So on that basis, we got some bit of promise that something will come through into the BMA with the view of its funding. So on that basis, we then developed the APP with that as an understanding. But unfortunately, we want to indicate to this committee, as we had emphasized this point to the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, which is where we do most of these conversations with, that we had to recall the strategic plan when it became clear that BMA is not going to be getting anything. And I did note, Honorable Chair, when you spoke that BMA is having some bit of additional funding. So there is no additional funding. And of course, the CFO will be able to clearly articulate as to the figure that had looked like is additional in terms of our funding. So on that basis, this particular slide is basically showing yourselves the APP targets that we had to remove. In other words, we had to recall our APP from Parliament and make sure that we actually recall it and put in or remove most of the APPs that we realize we won't be able to do them if we indeed are not going to get funding. So this slide is actually saying that, one, we did have a target where we wanted to ensure that a number of ports across the jurisdiction, actually we had 18 just for the current financial year, where we're going to put what we call the LAN and the WAN. LAN just means local aerial network. The WAN is the wider aerial network. We just want to indicate here to the members that as the BMA, we inherited very obsolete systems across the various ports, particularly those that has been kind of administrated by SITA, the State Information Technology Agency. Now, as an entity operating outside the public service, we do have the right to go to the private sector role players to be able to improve this. And this is what we wanted to do in this financial year. Unfortunately, because we are not being given any funding as the organization, we had to remove this particular target, unfortunately. And that is why there we said, due to budgetary constraints. Secondly, we wanted to modernize the IT systems across the ports, as you can see there, but more importantly, to make sure that we automate business processes in the context of movement control system, as well as the interactive advanced passenger information system. And once again, because of budgetary issues, we had to remove this particular obligation that we wanted to do. And that is why now we are targeting inside, which is now we are going to look at bringing in e-recruitment systems, as well as electronic documents and record management system instead of the frontline systems. And that is primarily because those systems are a bit pricey and we did not have any funding from a government to be able to do so. And that is why we had to remove them. If you look on the right-hand side of the slide, you will realize there that we also wanted to do some bit of risk analysis reports, mainly by our National Targeting Center in terms of the cross-border movement of people. And on that particular basis, and once again, because of the budgetary realities, we are not able to do that because even as we speak, we do not even have a human capacity to be able to do the work in the targeting center. And of course, the second part is the same, risk analysis reports in terms of cross-border movement of goods. We've also removed it because of those particular realities. And of course, the last one is the analysis report in terms of cross-border smuggling, as it were. So if you look at all of this, these are the targets that we had to remove out of the APP because, in simple terms, and we're not going to be funded. And on that particular basis, we could not commit on them. However, what we have done, we have removed them out of the annual performance plan, but we have put them in the annual operational plan so that we do not lose them, so that once we get funding, we will be able to escalate them back into the APP. Now, let's quickly then go into now what is the real APP. And I will be very much fast here so that we are able to finish on time, Honorable Chair. So here we are saying that these are the ones that we have submitted as now the approved APP, and this is what we are going to be accounting to Parliament as required on a quarterly basis. Now, if we start with corporate services, we can indicate that we have around 7 outputs, indicators and targets that we are going to be accountable for, and I will just go through them as fast as possible. Now, the first one here, you can see that we talk about 4 quarterly performance report. This is something that is basic, that has to be done all the time, mainly to the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation, and we are basically saying we are going to be doing that as required in law. We are going to do 1 report per quarter throughout the 4 quarters. If you then look in here, we are talking about 9 ethics workshops that we are going to be conducting. Why ethics workshops? Here we are saying we have inherited an environment that has been infested with corruption, and that is why we have now even brought in the SIU, the Special Investigating Unit. We have partnered with them, and that is why we created what we call the Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum. And of course, as part of their prevention angle, they are assisting us in terms of conducting workshops where we teach people on ethics, patriotism, and all of those. And all of this work is the intention to be proactive in making sure that we deal with the mentality and the mindset before people could then commit corruption, as it were. Now, if you look to the next one here, we are talking about the training interventions. So the training interventions in this instance are more aligned with the fact that we have now embraced a multiplicity of disciplines, whether it's immigration, is agricultural biosecurity, environmental biosecurity, or is health, as it were, and be able to make sure that people get trained to be able to understand all the disciplines across, but also to understand the fact that we are operating in a multidisciplinary environment, but as a single organization. And that is why we are going to be rendering all of these interventions according to the BMA training plan. If we then move to the next, you will realize there that we talk about 10 wellness interventions. And wellness interventions in this instance, Honorable Chair and committee members, is on the basis that having to establish a new organization, having to take people out of the public service, and ultimately having to deal with the teething realities of establishing the organization, there has been some challenges that we had to be dealing with in the process of the transition. And on that basis, wellness becomes very much fundamental. And that is why we are going to be rolling out these wellness interventions across the ports, across all of the various disciplines, as it were, and of course, across all the 3 modalities of air, sea, and land. Now, if you look at this particular one here, we talk about branding. Branding here is not branding in the context of the cosmetic, but this is branding that is fundamental for the people to be able to understand where they arrive at the port as to which area they need to go to for the purposes of immigration work, which area they need to go to in terms of port health work, which area they must go to for agricultural biosecurity, environmental biosecurity, as well as conventional law enforcement. Here is branding in the context of directives and bringing order in the port in terms of the work that we need to be doing, but also branding in the context of demonstrating that the Border Management Authority has effectively taken over from all of those departments that has been responsible for this work. So we are saying in the current year, we are going to look at 12, but of course we will roll it out as we go along, and of course as we also receive funding. In here, we talk about 8 business continuity plans. Here, what is very much fundamental is business continuity becomes critical in our enterprise, particularly because there are many things that can lead a port to be affected, whether it is floods, whether it's protest, or anything of that nature. And that is why we have to build business continuity plans to be able to enable us to still provide services, even if there are any kind of disruptions, whether natural or otherwise. In the past financial year, as you see the baseline there, we did 13, and currently we're going to do 8 in the current financial year, and we'll then ramp them up as we go forward. Now, in here, we are talking about the automation of the business processes. And as you can see here, we are actually putting it only on the 2 is purely based on affordability. And here we talk about e-recruitment system, so that as soon as we get the money, we don't struggle to recruit people. It has to be an automated process that is going to be done through an e-recruitment model instead of paperwork and all of those. And the second one is electronic document and record management system, which then becomes very much critical for us to be able to do the work as easily as possible. So those are the targets that we are going to be implementing in the current financial year from the corporate side. Let me then go through the last 7 in as far as the operation side before I hand over to the CFO to do the financial. So in this instance, firstly, you will see there that we talk about 158 risk-based joint law enforcement operations. We are going to be doing 158. We have consciously decided to ramp them up. If you look at the baseline, meaning the last financial year, we only did 40. So we have actually done almost 150% increase, as it were, in terms of the current. And the reason we did that is because we wanted to make sure that we actually amplify the frontline work as we do, but also we optimize the utilization of the drones as well as the body-worn cameras that we have demonstrated during the festive period in terms of Easter, which we basically continue to do as it were. And of course, we call this a risk-based, meaning it is an operation that is done on the basis of intelligence, given the risk that we have to be dealing with, as it were. And of course, the work here is to be guided by the National Targeting Center, working with the rest of the intelligence community in the country. If we look in here, it's 100% intercepted illegal people trying to enter the country, having to be deported. Here you can see everything is 100% on the basis of anybody detected at the port level. We have to process them for deportation. But of course, those that we found having done illegal activities beyond immigration, those ones we have to hand them over to the police or to the nearest police station. If you look at the next, this one is about the detection of the inadmissibles. These are the people that are actually not to be allowed to enter the country for various other reasons. There might be even a passport, but not even a visa, for example. There might be even a passport and a visa, but there might not be even a yellow fever certificate. So we are saying as soon as we detect them, we are going to refuse them entry, 100% of those, as it were. If you look at this one, it's about the 100% presented agricultural goods that we have to inspect. And we are saying, obviously, as they come through to the port, all of them, which is 100%, are going to then be inspected as provided for in law. This particular slide, again, talks about 100% of health-related goods that we have to monitor and make sure that they comply with the provisions in terms of international health protocols, World Health Organization, and of course, the provisions that we get from the Department of Health. In this instance, we're also saying 100% of those, as they come through to port, we are going to make sure that they are worked on. Here we talk about CITES. CITES is basically the convention in terms of your endangered species and all of those. And we are saying we are going to be inspecting all of those consignments for compliance when they arrive at the port, and we are going to do 100% of those. We can also indicate in this instance that CITES consignments don't just arrive at the port, they come by appointment, and we have to make sure that our environmental biosecurity experts are on the ground to make sure that they are fully inspected before they could be allowed into the Republic, and all the compliant protocols are actually observed. In this particular slide, we are now talking about the assessment that gets conducted on our ports in terms of International Health Regulation 2005. This particular activity is done by the Department of Health, and we are saying we are going to do 25 ports of entry in terms of assessment. You will realize that in terms of the baseline, we've done 24 in the past financial year. This year, we are doing 25, and we continue to ramp them up as we go forward. This is part of the protocol. You can see the breakdown in terms of the quarterly targets, which might not be necessary for me to recite. Suffice to say, this is the work we are going to be doing in the current financial year. So, Honorable Chair and the committee members, those are the targets. All in all, we have 7 for corporate, we have 7 for operations, which then is, I would say, 14 all in all in terms of the targets broken down in the various quarters, which actually we have started doing as we are on the second month of the first quarter, as it were. And of course, we report on this work on a quarterly basis to the Border Technical Committee, to the Interministerial Consultative Committee, but also to the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs. Without wasting time, honorable members, let's allow the CFO to take us through the budgetary part, and then we should be able to conclude the conversation. Thanks, Chair. Madam CFO.
Thank you, Commissioner. The CFO must present as you've been doing, talking to the document, emphasizing on issues that are of importance, not word by word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon to yourself, Honorable Chair, honorable members. Good afternoon to the Commissioner, the Deputy Commissioner, as well as my colleagues from the Board of Management. I'll do so, Chair. Maybe just as a background, I think I won't go too much into detail, is the fact that we were formulated through the transfer of budget from the various departments. I think, Chair, you've already mentioned this, that our money mostly comes from the department. 90% of the budget
Zama,
that we always present. Yes.
Can we see you? Then you can switch off the video.
I apologize, Chair.
I can't see you. I'm not sure if members can see you on theirs.
I hope, let me just, hi, this is me.
Oh, okay. You can switch
you.
off and then continue with your presentation.
All right, apologies for that. As I was saying, is that the BMA was formulated through a transfer from the various departments. Chair, you've already spoken to the fact that the budget then would have come from those departments, a very significant amount that we would have received from National Treasury. And I think in your opening statement, you did make mention of the fact that we had asked National Treasury for 2.9 billion for the FY 2023-2024, of which we only received to the 250 million. Must mention also that of the budgets that were actually transferred, or the budget that we currently have as the BMA, almost 90% of it's decreased now to about 80%, is in relation to your COE, so the paying of officials, leaving a very insignificant amount, which is to be used for your goods and services as well as your capital expenditure. I think we can go to the next slide. What the next slide basically does is just sort of gives a breakdown or the allocation for the MTF period. Chair, you did mention that there was an increase that was provided to the BMA. Maybe just to give detail on what the interest actually increase rather relates to. Of that, the 280 million in the FY 2025-2026 relates to a transfer or a relocation that was received from the Department of Public Works. So you would remember one of the items, one of the statements or clause, so yeah, that's on the BMA Act, is that the BMA will take ownership of the infrastructure in relation to the land ports of entry. So there is a budget for the repairs and maintenance for those specific land ports that was then transferred to the BMA. So it is not new money. That money is specifically to be utilized for any repairs and maintenance that are done at the land ports. The other increase was mainly just the inflation increase, which sits at about 4.68%. If we then just look at the next slide, which is basically the focus of how the expenditure spending for the BMA. In the first year, it was basically about the establishing of the organization. If you look at the nature of expenditure that we were incurring, it was more just getting the organization to start functioning. If you look at the FY 2024-2025 financial year, this was then the year in which we stabilized the organization. This was the harmonizing of the service conditions for the officials that were actually transferred from the various departments. In addition, we started looking at how do we invest in the tools of trade. So this would be your laptop, and I think Commissioner has already spoken at some of the old infrastructure and obsolete infrastructure that we received from the department. It was looking at how do we also optimize the office spaces, looking at the departments were all scattered in different areas. How do we ensure cost containment by consolidating the space? And then finally was looking at some of the systems that we needed for the operation of the organization, such as your payroll, as well as your finance system, so that we could be able to adequately report. The FY 26 and an era there, FY 26-25 financial year. This was supposed to be a very pivotal year for the BMA, in that we were supposed to then do the comprehensive deployment of the technology, which was aimed at optimizing and automating most of our processes. I think Commissioner has already touched on some of the challenges that we are having there, given the fact that we have not received any additional funding. We were to concentrate on enhancing the technology infrastructure at our ports, specifically also looking at how do we ensure that the technology, that we bring in more technology within our land ports to ensure we are able to facilitate the goods and service effectively and efficiently. We also anticipated with the additional funding, so just the last slide, the slide before, is that we would be able to then look at the areas where we are not capacitated. I think we've always raised the fact that the corporate services and the specialized operational functions are one of the areas where we are not capacitated. So the additional budget, we thought that that would allow us to be able to at least capacitate the organization in those critical areas. And I think the last one is the one that Commissioner said, was already also spoke to, is how then do we ensure that we are able to foster a strong ethical professional culture through the planned ethics training that we are still going to be doing with the budget that we have. If we can go to the next slide. This one is just basically just a look at what the budget looks like from the inception of BMA till the 27-28 financial year. We can move to the next slide. So if we then look at how the budget is split, program 1, which is the administrative program, basically we've allocated 392.4 million. And this is basically to be utilized for the ethic workshops that we spoke about, the training, conducting of the wellness. I'm not going to go into details. I think Commissioner has already spoken to it. How do we deal with the continuity plans in the various ports that we have? And also with the current work that we have, how do we automate some of the processes that we currently have within the organization? I'll go to the next slide. Most of the budget, and understandably so, this is where majority of the staff actually sits. And this is also where the mandate of the organization is actually performed. We are expecting on operations to spend 1.43 billion. This will literally look at how do we do the training interventions that the Commissioner has already spoken to. How do we try and automate some of the processes that we currently have at the BMA? Obviously, also looking at how do we collaborate with other entities that are currently within the space to ensure that we automate some of the processes. The next one was just how do we look at the procurement of tools tools of trade, as well, especially within the specialized unit. And this is where we're saying, how do we utilize the current funding? And if there's additional funding, how do we use that funding in order for us to be able to invest? So this is where we want to invest in the tools of trade. And then the last one, which we spoke to, is the investment in technology to improve connectivity or land and WAN. This is one of the projects that we need to focus on. So we are having discussions on how do we ensure that the budget is also utilized in order to make sure that we are able to ensure that our ports of entry are connected and are able to do the mandate or process the mandate. Thanks. Chair, this is just the detail of what I've already spoken to. I just thought we should add just a line item so that we can see where exactly the money is going to. But that is basically it from me. Thank you very much.
Commissioner?
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thanks, CFO. So basically, that is the presentation, Honorable Chair. We really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. And one would want to appreciate your diligence in taking us in confidence in terms of the programs. And as well, we want to acknowledge your emphasis on what is it that you have done differently in terms of your strategic plan, your adjustment as well. It's very insightful. And we hope that whatever that you have put into place, smart principles were applied, because indeed, as you detail your presentation, we are able to see that you have learned from the previous planning on what is it that needs to be done, operational and as well planning-wise. Now we would get the presentation from GPW, and then after members will engage. Over to you, CEO.
Good afternoon, Chair. I hope you can see me.
Yeah, we can see you. Look good. Thank you. You can continue.
Thank you very much. I thought I should follow protocol. All right. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members of the Select Committee. Let me also extend my greetings to Commissioner Mashiapato with his executive, as well as the members of EXCO from GPW that are connected to this platform. I really appreciate this opportunity for GPW to come and present to this honorable house. Honorable Chair and members, I have with me members of EXCO, from Government Printing Works. And we are here to present the revised strategic plan as well as the APP for the Government Printing Works. I was gonna ask my colleague from Home Affairs to fly it for us. I think, Chair, is it clear? Is it visible?
Very visible, ma'am. You can continue, but put it on a slide mode so that it doesn't distract you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. We are here to present the revised strat plan as well as the APP and budget for the Government Printing Works. Connected on this platform with me are members of EXCO from Government Printing Works. Allow me, Chair, with your permission, to introduce them. I've got Ms. Laura Mogi, who is GM Corporate Services, Mr. Ian van der Merwe, who is our CFO, Mr. Kuben Moodley, who's our GM Manufacturing and Engineering, Mr. Sihlang Guban, who is our General Manager Operations Management, Mr. Zweliban Zukiba, who is our CIO, and Mr. Ruzani Funzani, who is our CRO. Chair, I request your permission to co-present with the CFO in this presentation. Am I allowed?
Permitted, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will then present the first part, which is the strategic plan and the APP, and the CFO will present the second part, which is the budget section. Honorable Chair and members, let me indicate that both the strategic plan and the APP as revised for the Government Printing Works were based on consultative sessions where we presented to the Minister, the Deputy Minister, the DG of Home Affairs, and to ensure alignment, especially with the ministerial priorities. We are all in the mode of digital transformation, and we had to make sure that whatever GPW does is aligned to ministerial priorities. So at an EXCO level, GPW had its own internal meetings where we had a strategic alignment sessions, as well as the bottom-up planning sessions and an organizational strategic plan, just to make sure that there's proper buy-in into the projects and plans that we are going to implement. And both documents are really aligned to the GPME framework. I just wanted to say that this is just the overview of the presentation. I've already mentioned that we are here to present the strat plan for 2025 to 30, which is the MTDP cycle, as well as the revised APP for 2025-26, as well as the budget. Just by way of introduction, I need to indicate that the slides may look voluminous. I'm going to talk through them. I'm not going to read slide by slide, Chairperson, as you've rightfully indicated. We contribute to ministerial priorities for government as the Department of Home Affairs also aligns to the three, which are driving inclusive growth and job creation, reducing poverty and tackling high cost of living, as well as building a capable and ethical and developmental state. On this slide here, what I'm going to indicate is basically our contribution to those priorities that I've mentioned. As a government printing work entity, we're going to be producing national security documents to citizens and legal foreign nationals. And in the same vein, we're going to also be looking at refreshing the e-passport series in collaboration with the Department of Home Affairs. So we're going to then issue 99.9% of the smart ID cards in line with customer specifications. Similarly, we're going to do the same thing with the passports. And in our quest to reduce poverty, to contribute to reducing poverty and tackle the high cost of living, we're going to be employing youth, women, and people with disabilities, and we're targeting 100 of those into our developmental programs. Over the MTDP period, GPW commits to achieve the commitments that are on the right, all those targets. I'm just going to mention them so that when I go to that section, I don't talk to them in detail. Firstly, we have the approved internal audit plan. 100% of that will be implemented, having been approved by the audit committee. We have been having a specific focus on business continuity, given the challenges that we've experienced before in the organization. So this is central to all our plans that we're executing. So we need to reach the 5-stage life cycle as outlined in a BCM plan. 99.9% of examination papers will be produced that conform to client specifications. 98.9% of high security certificates will be produced. again in line with customer specifications. We're going to be optimizing the passport dispatch process through automation, and I will talk to this when I get to the target. Digitally signed barcodes through existing security products will be piloted using existing PKI. And this is one of our digital transformation initiatives, so that we ensure that from the physical documents that we've been printing, we then have a digital twin to make sure that we migrate towards the digital products. So 98.9% of gazettes will be published, and we will, over the MTF cycle, produce 3 digital products and make sure that they're implemented. We're striving to implement over 80% of our audit findings based on the management and the audit reports we shall get from AGSA, and we're implementing the post-audit action plan to achieve that. In our quest to expand our footprint into SADC and other African countries, we're going to ensure that we engage 24 potential customers across those regions as well as countries. And some of them will be new and others will be follow-up from the previous financial year. Then we have taken a decision to relook into our contact center, to reposition it so that it become a nerve center for customer complaints, compliments, as well as inquiries. We have agreed on a 10% cumulative target to ensure that by the end of the MTF, we have achieved the 10% profit margin, net profit margin, and then 80% of our total workforce will be trained. Critical to the digital transformation journey, we need to retrain our staff. Otherwise, we won't have an agile workforce that can embrace technology. So we have the workplace skills plan with priorities that we've already logged, and we'll make sure that that's implemented. Then 100% of the change management plan will also be implemented. We have started this journey in the 6th administration, and this is a continuation to show that there will be continuity in achievement of the targets within the organization. So 100% of the change management plan. Previously, we had GTech that came to assist us with the development of the strategy. We developed a plan, and that's what we're implementing. We also will have a focus on the 80% implementation of the gender-based violence and femicide plan. And our ICT strategy and plan, we should reach the maturity level that is acceptable. So we're looking into implementing that through the assessment plan that we've put in place. 100% of the security plan will be implemented. We are operating in a national key point. So implementation of the national key point as well as the SIPA Act is quite important to make sure that we secure that entity that is printing IDs and passports. And then 100% of our new headquarters building will be completed and officials will be moving in this year. We've looked into the organizational strategy without delving much into the detail. Our strategy mainly, as revised, focuses on national identity management, which nudges us to produce secured national IDs and passports, as well as security with using biometric authentication. We're going to be looking strongly on data protection. And this is a focus on cybersecurity and anti-fraud measures, particularly for our face valid documents like passports, certificates, and IDs, to make sure that we are able to verify them using advanced features to prevent forgery. We're going to be expanding on our capacity to print digital products by using such products. Collaboration with Home Affairs becomes important to make sure that whatever documents we verify, we do that real time, and we are able to authenticate them in a secured manner. We are going to continue focusing on the top 10 revenue generating streams to make sure that we generate more revenue and sustain JPW into the foreseeable future. We are interacting with critical government departments to ensure access to the e-government platforms, and I will talk to that later on as well. We are going to be using AI-driven document processing systems to reduce the paper-based and manual-based transactions, so that we can then validate in real time and be able to improve efficiency. We're going to be optimizing our business processes and looking at automating most of them. That's something I will talk to you as well. But Chair and members, if you look at it, the focus across the strategy is on digital transformation, ensuring compliance, operational efficiency, and formation of partnerships, because JPW can't do this on its own. These are just the strategic pillars that we have put in place to support the strategy that I've mentioned earlier on. So I will really not go to it, except to mention that at the top, we've got our vision that we've looked into as part of our repositioning. The last one on safety and environment also is inclusive of employee health and wellness, because having working in the factory environment, you need to make sure that the staff is actually secured and they're able to operate within that environment safely. Again, I won't talk to this in detail, but this is our organizational business model that focuses on the core activities that we'll be focusing on throughout the MTDAP period. Then the employee and the customer value proposition becomes very important. As we migrate into digital platforms, we need to then say, we're going to be rendering online and offline services. We'll be able to authenticate and verify the message. And then we're looking at the customer channels that we'll be using to disseminate information and to market our products to customers and produce them. Customer segments that we'll be working on locally as well as internationally, and leveraging on technology to do so. Central is that the customer is king. When you're generating your own revenue, every cent counts. So customer relationships become key. We're going to be looking at our people, our assets, our machinery and equipment. I've mentioned the key revenue generation streams would be a center of focus to ensure sustainability, as well as our costing model.
Recording stopped.
So yeah. This is our impact statement. The impact statement, we intend to provide the South African government or state with critical documents, the SADC as well as the rest of Africa, with those digitally secured and verifiable documents to enhance service delivery. This is our mission and vision, and as well as the values. We want to be the state's mandated security document enabler and digital trust center. So in doing that, we're going to make sure that we provide cost-effective, secure, reliable, and timely services to our customers, which are located within the 3 spheres of government, provide them with equitable information and leverage on digital transformation to dissemination information. So our values, we want to be customer-centric, service-oriented, productive, ethical, and have integrity. We need caring officials who are security conscious and professionals. These are the values that organizational officials should be able to live. I'm going to focus specifically on the Strat Plan 2025-30. And perhaps it is important for me at this point to start by mentioning what amendments we have made. Chair and honorable members will recall now we are tabling the revised plans, and perhaps just at a high level, I'm going to indicate what we've changed. It was not fundamental. At the Strat Plan level, we have tabled our Strat Plan 2025-30 and the APP in Parliament on the 2nd of April 2025, as well as to the NCOP as well as the National Assembly, and then we revised them they were retabled on the 13th of June 2025. At the Strat Plan level, there was only one change. We changed this into being a cumulative target, meaning that for each financial year we'll have 8 customers, but then over the MTD-EF cycle, we will then have engaged the 24 customers, as I've mentioned at the beginning. Our strategic risk register was approved by the risk committee after we have tabled. So we then incorporated the approved risks into the new Strat Plan. I will talk to that under number 16. At the APP level, this is the target that we have actually looked into carefully. Whilst we're still conceptualizing our journey into the digital platform, we thought let us rather pilot with identity documents than security documents. So the only thing that has changed there is that we will have digital signed barcodes, but we will be using them on identity products instead of on security products. And the quarterly targets also have changed. I will not go in detail on that, but we're going to start with engaging the customers, and the last 2 quarters, we will then produce the documents. This one also, without going into much detail, we have only changed the quarterly targets to be cumulative. So instead of having 30, 70, and then 30 again, we then chunk them into 30, 20, 30, 20, so that they add up to 100. What do we commit to do? We want to see GPW transforming into a digital trust center through provision of digital products and services. And I think this links up to our mission and values. We are going to reposition our business operations to become an enabler and verifier as well as certifier of digital products to make sure that they are viable and we are viable and sustainable. Further, we're going to ensure that our customers are happy with our products and improve their experience through delivery of timely quality and quantity services whilst we're delivering the hybrid products that I've mentioned. We will ensure return on investment by making sure that we have sound financial management systems and programs in place. And we will ensure investment in business continuity, as I've mentioned, to minimize a loss on production time. then we need the capacity, which is our agile workforce, that should be able to help us meet clientele demands and then implement our asset and capitalization plan on our facilities as well as machinery and equipment. In a nutshell, what is it that is our strategic outlook? I've mentioned that we've aligned to ministerial priorities. We are basically following in the footsteps of what the president has announced in the State of the Nation address in February. And he said that we will be investing in digital public infrastructure that will give South Africans access to government services anywhere, anytime, and through a relaunched e-government platform. What GPW will be doing in this instance is to make sure that we connect to the e-government platform so that we are able to access documents that we are able to verify as well as validate. The Department of Home Affairs focus in this MTDP cycle is to produce a digital ID. And that is the product that GPW will be collaborating with Home Affairs to produce, as well as the e-passport, to make sure that at the end of the day, we are able to verify and validate the document on the e-government platform that the Department of Digital Communications and Digital Technologies have actually launched earlier this year. This will allow our citizens to store digital identity credentials on their smartphones, online, as well as offline for authentication. Where do we learn our lessons? We've conducted a lot of research in our new role. You know, when you've been a printer since 1888 and you wake up one morning, you are being told, now you need to go digital. It's bound to revolutionize your environment. We then had to go into research, and we're learning key lessons from models that are being implemented in other countries like India. They've got what they call the M-Aadhaar system, which is a mobile application that allows their citizens to carry their information digitally on their smartphones. And we're also drawing strength from the Estonia model, their mobile ID, which is a digital ID system that enables them to secure authentication, have digital signatures, meaning you have digital signed documents, and access to online services. This one even extends to having an e-residency program that allows global entrepreneurs to establish and manage businesses remotely. So governments are basically migrating into the space, and we cannot be left behind. Home Affairs is planning to ramp up the applications of smart ID cards and phase out the green barcoded ID. We are going to ramp up our production to make sure that we meet our demands. We are part of the STEERCO in that regard. We've signed an MOU between South African Revenue Services, ourselves, and the BMA and Home Affairs, where we become part of the digital ecosystems, and that will help us to discharge our role. What is that role? As I've mentioned in our vision and mission, we want to be a digital trust center. For us to arrive there, our new role involves doing verification and authentication of digital IDs and information using existing PKIs. We're going to ensure that the digital documents, the credentials, or the claims that are based on those documents are legitimate for individuals as well as entities that require our services, and we're going to validate that on digital platforms. Further, we're going to then engage in authentication and authorization of the digital IDs through utilizing cryptographic methods to authenticate those or biometric data. And ultimately, we want to transform into a certification authority that can host its own PKI on site and have the secured platforms that we use to authenticate our customers. So what that involves is that being a trusted CA, you need to then have a registration authority. You need to have key management systems into your own environment that allows strict control and access controls. You have audit logs, and then you are able to comply with local and international security standards. I need to indicate very clearly that our dual strategic intent is such that from now up until the next 5 years, GPW will continue to print. So we'll still have ink on paper documents. But whilst we're looking into the 5th year, perhaps with printing dropping, not to the extent that we'll be doing it now, we're then building that journey starting today to make sure that we gradually develop digital products so that when we get to that eventuality, we continue to sustain our organization, particularly because we are self-revenue generating. We don't receive an allocation from National Treasury. This is our roadmap. From the 1st year to the 3rd year, we're going to develop a business case on digital identity in collaboration with Home Affairs, similarly on the e-passport, as well as on the conceptualization of the e-passport series. But then we're going to develop a government-wide digital identity, privacy, and security discussion document, particularly on the management of secure digital identity verification and authentication. And then we're going to generate digitally signed barcodes through existing PKI. The journey continues where we will then enhance the documents further with blockchain-based authentication, as well as developing a framework on integration of ID, printing, and digital verification system. Continue with using AI-enabled systems to ensure that corruption and fraud is actually deterred, and then have a decentralized ID solution, and then create mobile apps and wallets. And that will take us into the ultimate of us being a digital trust center in the 7-year plus. We are not oblivious of the challenges that this digital transformation journey presents to us. Firstly, we are still dependent on the SITA networks, which remains a challenge from a network stability point of view. Therefore, we're going to have to migrate to a network that is stable, that enables us to be up 24/7 on a 24-hour, 7-day basis. The South African government is still developing its legal framework for blockchain-based identity, and therefore we need to connect with that as we develop our discussion document. We're going to make sure that we have multi-factor authentication on our documents and biometric verification. Therefore, as we engage in this journey, citizen empowerment is very important, as well as education. Just so that the citizens are on board, they know what is it that government is trying to do as we migrate into this digital platform. Much as some of the rural areas are having a developed infrastructure, we need to recognize and acknowledge that there will be those that are in the far-flung areas that may not be equally, be accessible or access technology in the time that the others would. So the rural-urban divide issues become important. We need to take people in a segmented way, be able to take the first group that will be able to access technology and ICT infrastructure first, and then we'll gradually migrate to reach out to those that are in the far-flung areas so that they can also be reached by the services that we will be providing. So digital literacy becomes important so that as they carry the services on their smartphones, they can know how to use that. COPIA, we need to make sure that the handling of personal information is in line with the regulation and information is actually protected. System rejection issues, you might find that some people are suspicious when you start saying government wants to have this information connected to the e-government platform, and they might be suspecting that they are one of us that did, and they want to actually misuse our personal information for surveillance purposes. So we need a nationwide campaign where we link up with the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies to communicate this message, disseminate it through different media platforms, so that the community is well aware that there's nothing sinister, but this is a critical milestone that we need to reach as our country. What are the critical plans? At a high level, we've chunked them into categories so that it's easier to see how we segmented them. From an HR point of view, we have mentioned the change management plan that we will continue to implement. We started this, as I indicated, in the previous financial year, and then we're going to focus specifically on issues of culture. We've had challenges in this area in our own organization, and therefore we thought let's have a very focused attention on this item. To this effect, we've developed work streams that are being running, particularly focused on various aspects of change management, and we've involved labor unions so that officials at large, labor, and ourselves as management, we need to be able to feed into what is it that needs to happen to change DPW's culture and move into the desired end state. Recruitment, we are moving into this financial year with a 41% vacancy rate because we haven't been able to fill posts in the longest of time because of the austerity measures which were imposed on GPW. So filling of posts with the requisite skills becomes very important, especially those skills that will help us to migrate into the digital transformation era, like your digital artisans. So we're going to be doing that. We've already advertised posts and we are in the process of filling that. Investment in people, we need that agile workforce that can embrace technology. But central to this, we are emphasizing the message to our change management platforms that nobody's going to lose their job. So we're looking at a model where technology coexists with people. And we know that people won't be able to embrace technology at the same time. If you look at the generation theory, you've got those that were born before computers, others are more your click generation, where they can actually catch up faster. We'll make sure that we segmentize them and they're able to benefit from the technology without threatening their own jobs. Performance management, we've got officials who have reached the ceiling, and they now have stagnated. So we're going to be implementing the reward and recognition plan just to encourage them to do further, to do better, even if they've reached the ceiling. Occupational health and safety as a factory, we need to make sure that we implement our plans and continue issuing PPE item and uniform items to staff so that they can operate within the safe environment. Employee health and wellness, we've got a plan that we're implementing. Project Kaedu, we have introduced this in the previous financial year. This is a service delivery challenge where senior managers are supposed to go to the coal face. You throw away your high heels, your boots, you wear your overalls, your hats, you then go to the factory, to the warehouses where the rubber hits the tar. Then you experience what an official at the ground level feels. You're able to come back and then say, the challenges that I got, what is it that I'm going to do to resolve them? And it's a program that we'll be implementing year on year. Infrastructure will be moving into the new headquarters building, but that actually requires us to look into our asset recapitalization plan and see where we can improve on machinery for digital products, as well as high security products. And we have a planned commercial printing facility that we'll be moving into. Of course, this is aligned to the budget and the procurement plan. Facilities management, we have a greenfield site that we want to move into for high security printing. And then we've repurposed our service lines so that you've got a high security printing facility, you've got a security printing facility and a commercial one. So that as you navigate the space of saying, where am I generating revenue? It should be a conscious journey. Regional warehouses, we've got regional warehouses in Northwest, in Mavatu, in Polokwane, Limpopo, East London, Eastern Cape, as well as in Gauteng. We want to make them nerve centers for generating revenue. And then we will expand to Free State and Mpumalanga because that's where the demand is. Digitization, I've talked about the e-passport series as well as the e-passport upgrade and the national ID, so I won't go into detail on that, as well as the digitization of our certificates. We're going to be taking over the dispatch section in Home Affairs, and that's the section that is currently being run under the Department of Home Affairs. So we're going to look at optimizing the dispatch service and be able to take it for operational efficiency as well. We're going to be automating our end-to-end printing of examinations so that we are able to minimize human intervention in that regard. ICT is going to assist us a lot in making sure that we've got the necessary modernization and digitalization of our business processes and products so that we can have those simulations, those apps, those software that we require to modernize. So currently we're already implementing the e-submission, the e-contract, as well as the e-invoice management system. We'll be moving into the e-leave, e-recruitment, e-asset management, so that we are then able to move into the digital transformation space. This will obviously be aligned to the change management interventions. We've already moved some of our corporate systems into the cloud platforms to ensure redundancy as well as resilience. We're going to continue to do that. We've upgraded some of our data infrastructure as well, and we are introducing online self-service portals in the contact center as well as on the e-gazette system so that clients can actually go and get fixed online quotations and complete and submit their notices online for publication. E-government, we have appointed a service provider to run our ISO product. As a factory, we're supposed to operate on ISO standards, and therefore that service provider is going to help us to get certification on all of them. We've been exploring the establishment of a polycarbonate plant just for investment purposes and see if we cannot use it as a revenue generation stream. That research is going to continue. And then we should be able to realize the objectives once it's confirmed that we can generate revenue from that. Our footprint expansion into SADC is quite critical, and we're going to continue with that. I need to proudly indicate that the journey that we've started a couple of years ago is actually paying off in this regard, because what we have seen happening is that GPW has actually started printing for countries such as Namibia, So we printed a Namibian certificate. We have printed the vocational certificates for the government of Eswatini. And recently, Lesotho has approached us. We've printed their voter registration cards, forms, and then we also have produced the AU passport. We are continuing in this journey. It's very proud to see that you have a footprint in other countries where South Africa is actually recognized as servicing governments from others. We've already entered into MOUs with Namibia and Kenya, and we're busy working on an MOU with Lesotho, but we continue to engage others so that we can gain traction in this area and use this as another strong revenue generation stream going forward. I've talked about the cumulative 10% net profit margin, and all these efforts are meant to help us to gain profitability and sustain our organization. The post-audit action plan will continue to have over 80% of our audit findings resolved. And we started the journey again in the 6th administration to implement the ministerial review panel recommendations. The next slide just shows graphically, we had 166. We've already concluded 148, and we are left with 18. So 89% of the recommendations have been implemented. Part of the 11% was linked to recruitment because we couldn't fill posts. We couldn't then implement anything in that space. Now that we're filling posts, we're going to make a dent in the short to medium to long term by making sure that those posts are filled. A few were just linked to the investigations that we are concluding. From an APP level, I thought, honorable members, let's just map a journey in terms of where we come from. It's been a journey for us, so that we're starting it at 1920 financial year. We were at 78% performance, 2020-21, 78, 21-22, 72. We stagnated a bit on 22-23 into 72, but then we increased again 23-24 to 78%. 24-25, we are at 80%. These figures are subject to the audit for 2024-25. Similarly, if you look at the product lines, all of them, passports, ID, exams, gazettes, as well as high security certificates, there's an overall upward trend, an increase, a visible increase in terms of the products that we are producing to the country, save for the passports. And obviously, because it's something that is customer driven, but we have seen a significant increase in the revenue as well that we're producing in that regard. In terms of targets, we only have a total of 21 targets, which are linked to our budget programs. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. We have 21 targets that are linked to our budget programs. Our branches are the Office of the CEO, Manufacturing and Engineering, Operations Management, Financial Services, as well as Corporate Services, and all the GMs are those that I was introducing at the beginning of the meeting. I'm not going to go into detail. I've explained some of this, so I'm going to run through this section so that I can hand over to the CFO to then present the budget. I've spoken about the 100% implementation of the internal audit plan and the breakdown of the quarters. I'm not going to go through. For this financial year, because we're heading towards the reaching stage 5 of the BCM, we're just focusing on stage 3 life cycle. I think that's one thing I want to amplify, and I've spoken to this target when I started. Is the one that we've changed. This is one of our core branches where we're producing the smart ID cards, the passports, examinations, and certificates that I've mentioned at the beginning as the targets over the MTD period. The journey starts now with the financial years. We are producing these documents in line with the ICAO standards as well as the Sigma 5 manufacturing standard, which says that for every 233 defects, for every 1 million, we are only allowed to have 233 defects, and we've never really gotten to that stage. So we've been producing these documents in line with the world-class standards, same as the 99% of passports, 99% of examination papers, 98.9% of certificates. And this is the function that I indicated earlier that will be taking over from the Department of Home Affairs. It has actually been part of the value chain, just that it was segmented in that fashion. So we are bringing it into the value chain so that we can then optimize the passport image enhancement process as well. And linked to this will be our support of Home Affairs initiative to ramp up the applications. We will then implement the solution of having to deliver the passports and IDs to the doorstep of our officials. And obviously that will target a particular segment that can afford to have that service, and then we will roll it over the next MTDP period plus beyond to make sure that those who says I can afford to pay for it, come and deliver it to my house, we are able to do so, and then people can receive them on their doorstep. Public infrastructure, we're going to use identity documents. We've already started engaging the departments where we are personalizing their data to say, let's have a digital twin. If it's a staff card, let's have that. If it's a certificate, then let's automate that, and then we will be able to produce those in this financial year. We're going to be producing gazettes again in line with the manufacturing standards. Engagements with customers, I've mentioned this, it will be 8 for each financial year, both SADC as well as other African countries. I've talked about the repositioning of the contact center to be an F center for customer complaints, compliments, as well as inquiries. We're going to be producing digital products, one per financial year, and make sure that we implement them. So there will be somebody walking away with the digital product that we shall have produced. Finance, we have a cumulative target. We're starting at 4%, and then we'll get to 10%. The only challenge we'll be having in finance is that, and the CFO will talk to this, the issue of the surplus that we generate. We've already surrendered about 1.7 billion to National Treasury. You know, as a self-revenue generating entity, we are obliged by law to declare our surplus at the end of each financial year and allow National Treasury, which the Treasury regulations empowers them to do so, to then indicate how much they're taking from that surplus. So since 2013 to date, we haven't been receiving an allocation, but they have taken so far 1.7 billion. So we are actually engaging with Treasury, and through the minister, we will be submitting a letter to the Minister of Treasury to request that for the next 3 years, they shouldn't take any surplus from GPW, so that we are able to procure our new ERP system, to move into the digital transformation and buy the digital machines that we require. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves constrained and not being able to achieve that target. We're going to be implementing 70 to 80% in the outer year of our post-audit action plan. And in terms of corporate services, this is the target I spoke to earlier, where I said we're targeting to employ the youth, women, and people with disabilities. And of course, as a factory environment, you need to actually see where you can locate people with disabilities. We've got areas like bookbinding where a person can be seated, and then you don't require a lot of movement, and then you can then have others as well. And I'm not saying this is the only area that we're looking into. I'm just giving us an example, but we've got areas even in offices where you can have a person in a wheelchair. In the new headquarters building, we already have voiceovers. We already have the Braille facility in the lifts, just to make sure that we accommodate people with disabilities. We also have ramps there. So we will then be able to accommodate them and the young people who will be appointing. 80% of our workforce will be trained, as I've mentioned. We'll have a program of upskilling, reskilling, job rotation, so that they are able to be multi-skilled in the areas, and we are able to build that agile workforce. We'll be implementing 70% of the change management plan to influence our culture. 70% of gender-based violence and femicide plan will be implemented. And I've mentioned we're migrating towards maturing our ICT environment.
Recording in progress.
To make sure that the capability of our IT system is actually implemented in line with the digital services ecosystem platform that we have in government. And then as a national key point, we've got the security management plan that we're going to make sure that without fail, we implement them, and that we implement it and we deal with all elements of corruption, anti-fraud, anti-corruption activities. They're all there. And then we make sure that we deter any acts that might actually compromise our security. In the next 2 months or so, we're going to be moving into our new headquarters building, and we're going to be inviting the minister and other critical officials to be part of that ceremony, where we will be moving from the old dilapidated building. That building where we're sitting now, it's over 50 years old, and we thought as management, we can't continue to house our officials there. So DBSA has been working hard to make sure that they complete the building. Currently, we're at the snagging list level, where we're checking what is it that needs to be amended. The building is 95% complete, and according to the DBSA, we then should be ready to move in the next month or two. So that becomes an important milestone. From a risk-based perspective, we have looked into the risk, and this is the risk that I said, the risk register that I said was approved after tabling. In a nutshell, we're going to be looking into these risks. The mitigating plans are not exhaustive. I just extracted some of the mitigating plans just to show an example of what we're going to do to mitigate the risks. The issue of compromised image and integrity of GPW resulting in loss of customers become important. If you're self-revenue generating, you need customer confidence, you need customers to stay with you. So we're going to be implementing cybersecurity and anti-fraud measures for e-passport certificates and IDs. We're going to be looking at deterioration of production capacity resulting in client dissatisfaction. So if it is that you can't deliver, your clients will be unhappy. So we're looking at introducing the second shift just to make sure that we run our operations day and night, and then we can improve productivity levels, but also develop AI-driven document processing system. We are in the process of developing, implementing a document management, a record management system where we want to digitize our records. Having been in establishment since 1888, we've got a lot of records that needs to be digitized. So we're looking into that. We're participating in the tender that Home Affairs has just to make sure that we digitize all our records and we store them in secure places. We're procuring our new ERP system. CETA has been a challenge here. For the past year, we've just been trying to procure the system. But now we are there and we have procured the ERP system. But now again, we have to go back to CETA to request professional services so that we can deploy the system online. We are actually happy that there's the new regulations that are in place for CETA. We're just going to engage with them and give them a turnaround time of 30 days or so. If they don't come to the party, we'll have to request permission to go to the market so that we can optimize our services and be able to deliver. But so far, we'll be working through CETA to procure professional services. We're going to implementing our security policies, make sure that we sustain our financial position, ensure that our data is not compromised as we attract our officials. Allow me to break here, and through your permission again, allow the CFO to take us through the budget.
Permission granted. Over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
CFO.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, CEO. You can move to the next slide, please. Chair, thanks. I think you've mentioned some of it in your intro, Chair. Just to reiterate that you will see our budget growing from 1.9 billion to about 2.1 over the MTF period. I think the significant issue here is that we are stabilizing our gross profit margin. If you do recall in the past, it did hover around 35% to 40%. So we are looking at a 33% up to a 38% gross profit margin over the period. We have kept our budgeted surplus at 2%, 4%, and 6% over this period. We are looking at growing it up to 10% over the MTF, or over the 5-year period rather. I think the concern here was that we were kind of bleeding quite a bit in the last 2 financial years, but we are stabilizing this, and for the year under review, we're sitting at about 8% unaudited surplus. So even on this front, we are stabilizing. But having said that, we're not without any challenges, and this obviously does rely on a number of assumptions that we've made in the reporting period. The next slide. So, Chair, as I said, we are increasing about 12% on our expenditure over the period up to 27-28. We will steadily increase that medium-term surplus projection. The one thing that we have established in the last 18 months or so was the tariffs with DHA and our passports and IDs. This was quite an important one for us because it does give you a certain certainty in terms of budget projections. And although these tariffs take us back to a couple of years back, at least we've now got an agreement with DHA that we will grow with about 5.5% over the next 3 years and then negotiate further increases. But I think this was an important one for us to establish that fact in the last period. We have not made any allowance for surrenders to the National Treasury, as CEO has said. In fact, we have requested, or we will be requesting them for an exemption for us to retain our surpluses for the next three years, mainly for us to recapitalize on our machinery, to ensure that we do have our lease in place, and obviously then to also grow our cost of employment in line. The budget relies on some assumptions in terms of our passports. We've looked at the quantities, the volumes of passports and IDs. And these are numbers that we normally get from DHA, and they've been consistent. Unfortunately, some of these numbers are outdated in terms of what we expect from DHA, and we are making assumptions based on our own records. But the assumption is that at least 1 million passports and 2.5 million IDs will be produced, and we're looking at A4 at about 1 million boxes of A4. Our major revenue drivers obviously is the passports, the IDs, the A4, some advertising. We are looking at expanding examinations to more provinces, and to that effect, we are looking at printing presses over the period. Our contract printing is definitely still a part of our strategy, and there is some revenue to be had from that, and then the other ones are smaller in terms of our total revenue stream. Next slide. Chair, I'm not going to labor this one. This is just a graphical explanation of that. So on passports, we're looking at about 431 million rands worth of passports over the period. You can still see that A4 is a big money spinner for us, so that will definitely stay or remain part of our strategy in terms of revenue, and the IDs and advertising also a very important point. There is a definite potential to expand, especially on the advertising and on contract printing as well, together with exams. Those are some of the revenue streams that we will explore further. Next slide. Yeah, so I've mentioned the increases that we've had with passports and IDs. You will see it's very marginal, but at least it gives certainty. All our other items are at 5.5%, and we do have markups on contract printing of around 25% per quotation. The e-Gazette is going to be an important money spinner for us as well, and that the automation process is being finalized. And I think CEO has mentioned a little bit on the static engagements. Although we haven't had significant contributions yet, there is a potential for that to grow over this period. On the CapEx, you will see that manufacturing engineering is our biggest CapEx expenditure, and as well as operations and IT as well. The recapitalization over the next 2 years of our presses and our machinery is a definite for us. And it basically also speaks to us being able to remain a going concern and being able to service our customers over this period. Lease improvements you'll also see is an issue, is another expenditure item. Now you can move the slide, thanks. These improvements is also another item for us, and that speaks directly to our new headquarters, as well as a new commercial printing site that we're looking forward to get in place. The other big spinner or the big investment will be in our ERP. Currently, our current ERP system is outdated in terms of support, and together with SITA, there is a move to implement that program as well. That won't happen overnight, unfortunately, so there will be probably another 12 to 18 months window on this. CEO mentioned that our headquarters is at practical completion stage. We have taken a view on the master plan in terms of what's required going forward, and any implementation of that will be based on our availability of funds going forward. So our capital commitments that we plan to execute, will be funded from our own revenue as well as our retention of surpluses. At the moment, as you know, we are not dependent on Treasury for any funds. We generate our own funds. We use our own retained surpluses to fund some of our expansions, and we'd like to keep that consistent over the period. Next slide. So just on the cost of employment, some of the considerations we've had. We've got a new organizational structure, and we've built this on a number of premises, in particular our footprint extension. The implementation will be phased in over the period. Initially, we were hoping to do it in a 3-year period, but we had to move that window to about 5 years, seeing that we did have some DPSA restrictions on this. We are at the moment gradually increasing our cost of employment, and in particular also to make provision for shift allowances. The negative cash flow or any negative cash flow will obviously impact on our ability to implement this structure, and that's why we are very eager to get to Treasury and request for a multiple-year exemption to ensure exactly this sustainability. Next slide. Just on our goods and services, you will see, rightfully so, that our manufacturing and engineering has got the most or the biggest portion of goods and services. Our corporate services is also big, and it incorporates quite a number of units within the GPW, of which one is the facilities budgets, and that budget alone is in excess of 150 million. So that's where our goods and services lie, and this is a breakdown that we've got per branch. Next slide. So we have also included in this budget the cost for new commercial printing sites, which is currently being evaluated. There's one region, namely KZN, that does suggest that there is revenue to be had from having a presence within KZN, and we are busy looking at that option in securing a site and also staffing it properly. Our depreciation will increase over the period as we do extend on our capex and as we capitalize more equipment and machinery within our fixed asset register. Our foreign exchange also will be affected, as most of the machines and most of our provisions and maintenance does come from overseas companies, so that will definitely also have an impact. Just on the cash flow for the period, on the analysis, it was mentioned that we've surrendered to date 1.7 billion to the National Treasury. The ongoing engagements with SADC definitely has got a potential to increase cash flow as well as sustainability over this period. And then obviously the repurposing lines of our security printing, and commercial printing, and our investments in those areas to ensure that we do have revenue streams going forward. And we have to then reconceptualize the master plan projects, as we said. And I think this is also with a view to cost savings while we are exploring the digital platforms that the CEO has mentioned. So a couple of questions that you've raised, Chair, was that we have not suffered any material losses due to criminal conduct over the past 5 years. We are paying our invoices within the 14 to 30-day period, and we've got very few invoices outstanding beyond that, mostly those that might be in dispute. So on that score, GPW is executing its mandate and responsibility. Next slide. So on the regular expenditure, you will see that we have actually reduced it from 142 million, 142.5 million in the 23-24 year to 4 million in 24-25. We have incurred a wasteful expenditure of 500,000, which was due to a VAT payment that we are disputing with SARS at the moment. I think the important part here is that for very long, and with the data loss, we never got to actually doing a containment or a determination testing through internal audit. So we have done that. And our testing has come back. Well, we've tested close to 729 million rands worth of irregular expenditure. That's about 58% of our regular The next step now, obviously, is to go for condonements through the framework with National Treasury after we have looked at any consequence management that needs to be done. But I think important part here for us is that we are reducing our irregular expenditure significantly year on year. Next slide. So just briefly, in terms of our audit action plan, we have submitted to the AG the financials for auditing. We have also looked at the AG plan, and we have instituted a project-based approach on all the items that were affected by the data loss at the last financial year. We have an early audit agreement with the AG, so we are quite far advanced with our current audit as it stands. We have resolved, well, this was at 31st of March, 61% of all our audit findings. Our last number this morning was sitting at 85%. So we have actually moved, and if you look at the next slide, you will see there were quite a number of items that were part of our data loss and legacy, and we have dealt with all of them, but they obviously are now the subject of audits and audit opinion, and so we'll probably get a better view of this. But we do have a very strong audit action plan. We've categorized them into sections, and we are monitoring them on a monthly basis. Some of them are housekeeping matters, but the ones that do relate or that could lead to qualification, we have dealt with them considerably over the last financial year. Next period, next one. I think I'm going to leave this next ones to the CEO. Thank you, Chair.
Through your permission, can I continue?
Continue, ma'am.
Okay. I've spoken to some of the items, so I won't belabor them. The CFO has actually mentioned the issue of the structure that got approved and the fact that we got permission to fill posts. And following the lifting of the cost containment measures, we are continuing to fill those posts so that we are able to attract incumbents with the requisite skills to enable implementation of our digital transformation strategy and plans. We have demonstrated resilience post-COVID, and we have actually remained liquid to date. I've mentioned the issue of the new headquarters building that is almost towards completion, and we'll be moving our officials into that. Part of the culture change actually will be influenced by that as well. Progress has been made towards the rebuilding of our ICT infrastructure to ensure resilience and redundancy. We are able to back up and restore our systems and data. We have migrated most of the critical systems to the cloud platform to ensure stability of our environment and business continuity. I've mentioned the issue of footprint expansion earlier on, so I won't talk to that as well now. The next slide. Okay, I've mentioned this as well, that we've signed the MOU with SARS, BMA, GP, and Home Affairs as part of the cooperative agreement to modernizing and digitizing our products. And we are part of the digital ecosystem so that we enable our role to be a trust center. I've mentioned the issue of persistent delays with SITA and what we'll be doing to ensure that we gain traction on the ERP system. I'm utilizing the regulations that have been passed on SITA. I've also indicated that we had a 41%. We have a 51% vacancy rate as at end of May, but we are continuing to fill posts through the adverts that we have already published. The focus is to actually capacitate ICT, finance, and the core branches, and then obviously some of the critical posts in the support branches will also be filled with critical posts that we require the skills for. We, as a manufacturing entity, we're supposed to operate 24/7. We haven't been. We've just been doing straight day shift on Monday to Friday basis, on a weekly basis like that. So we want to introduce the second shift, which is a night shift. We know that it comes with associated benefits. that we need to implement as well in line with DPSA guidelines, like the shift allowances that are there. So we'll make sure that all that is taken care of. And we want to believe that the increase in that capacity will help us to produce more than what we have now. We want to end here, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, and we recommend that the Select Committee on Security and Justice notes our revised APP threat plan as well as APP and support our presentation. Chair, would like to humbly thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and we really appreciate the fact that at least you know where your bread is buttered, that you need to ask us to actually acknowledge your work and the presentation itself, so that at least you are able to do your work. It is interesting that you are repeating as well the fact that there's an ambition of having a night shift. And as you are saying it, we heard it for the first time when we met with yourselves. And my question would be how soon, but you'll answer as we get to that part of questions and clarity and comments. Members, we have two presentations, and I'm now opening the platform for yourselves so that you can ask the questions and give advice where it suits. And then Department BMA and GPW will respond on their issues. When you take a platform, just indicate which question is for which department, so that as they respond based on how we ask them. I'm noting hands, members. For now, I can see that is only the birthday boy. That Honorable Pito, I don't see other hands. Other members are covered, maybe. Okay, no, thank you. Over to you, Honorable Pito. Okay, just wait. I can see the hands are still coming. Happy birthday, pa.
Thank you,
Yeah,
my sister.
let's wait for them. They are still raising their hands.
Okay.
Honorable Pito,
Yes,
remain open with that video. It's your birthday. The world must know that you are a birthday boy. While I'm noting others.
thank you. Much
Yeah,
appreciated.
yeah. Okay, it's yourself, then Honorable Mokai and Honorable Pili. Over to you, Honorable Noe.
Thank you, Chair. Only two
Sorry, Chair, the
questions. One,
gadget is not showing my hand. That's why I'm on video with my hand up. Sorry.
Okay, noted. I have actually failed you as speaking because it's a bonus next time. Over to you, Honorable
Chair.
Noe.
Chair, you undertook to assist Honorable Nonkonyan yesterday. It seems you have not done your undertaking. Okay. That having been said, Chair, let me welcome the presentations by the BMA and the GPW, and yourself and members of the committee. Chair, I've got only one question per institution. Chair, as you said, we received these presentations sometime. But as always, we have not, or I have not been fully went through them. So my questions might have been somehow covered during the presentations. Maybe it might be a question of
Honorable Pito, can you switch off your video because I think you have a problem with your bandwidth? Honorable Noe?
it very much.
Yeah, no,
Chair.
we couldn't. Yeah, we couldn't hear you. Switch off the video, and then you can start your question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, I have got that network challenge here. I don't know what is happening today. Chair, my first question to BMA, I just want to establish specifically around the borders of Lesotho and Free State, whether they are also deploying the drones there, just to be in the light, whether how are they managing the areas where I know there is totally no fencing at all, like Fixback, around areas of Fixback and around areas of like Kwakwa. And then on the GPW, I just want to check, Chair, we quite often see instances where the IDs are reprinted and the SASSA cards. We have seen recently there was like a very big scam case that relates to SASSA. So many SASSA cards were printed. I just want to check whether, to what extent, with all the cards that are printed by GPW, to make sure that even if scammers can or cyber crime can access our printed documents, but they shouldn't be able to function anywhere else as part of preventing corruption, specifically on instances where it has got access to government information, which is part of combating corruption, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Noe. Honorable Mukai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Mine is very short. Just to appreciate the presentation from the entities. Good afternoon to you, Chair, and to all the members. May I request also that I don't put my video, Chair. My bandwidth, here at the village, we are struggling with our bandwidth.
Yes,
but
you can.
there am I can.
Yeah, switch
I
it
can
off
see.
because it can embarrass you now. So switch it off and continue.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I just need to appreciate the presentation from the two entities, BMA and GPW. And then, Chairperson, most of the issues that were there, they were clear from the entities. The only thing that I wanted to find out from GPW, I think the CFO indicated that they will move to a new facility soon, and I think maybe it's offers, but I wanted to find out because remember, GPWP also have a massive production facility where all the IDs are printed and the passport and so forth. And I wanted to find out in terms of the facility, is going to accommodate offers as well as the production facility where the production house is taking place. I just wanted to get a clarity, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Mukai. And we must go for oversight in that facility very soon.
Yes, Chair,
Honorable
indeed.
Billy.
Thanks, Chair. With your permission, can I also not, I'm in a space that is a bit unstable.
Can I
Can
first
you hear me?
see that you are in order, then you can switch off?
Sorry?
Can I just see you that you are in order, then you can switch off? I'm
Oh, the Chair
joking.
wants to see my face.
Okay. No, I can see you are somewhere in the lodge. Over to you.
Chair, no, man, I'm also going to be quite brief, even though the presentations were quite long and quite informative. I've just got about 2 comments or so on each presentation, but and a question. I think what we must do, Chairperson, was throughout the presentation, especially if you look at the PMA, there's a very clear and a bold, ambitious plan that sort of places digital transformation at the center of our border security. And I think that is exactly what the Minister has been emphasizing over the past few months, on getting the digital transformation going. And I think it's good to see that the BMA is also on board, especially when it comes to the commitment, which is to automate and automate and implement biometrics in our ports of entry. And I think Chairperson, as a committee, we must really welcome that and appreciate that, because that takes us to a to a point where there's seamless and secure and modernized border management, which is something that the country desperately needs to get our ports of entry modernized and secure. So those are just two comments with regards to the BMA. And for the BMA, maybe the question I want to ask is how is the BMA going to ensure the full automation of the identified business processes in the BMA digitalization plan, and what systems are being prioritized for digitization over the medium term? And then with regards to the biometric systems and borders, I saw the targets of the implementation of the biometric movement control systems at our ports. I just want to find out what progress has been made so far, and how is this improving national security? Those are just two questions for BMA. And then with regards to GPW, again, I think what also must be commended, Chair, is the appetite to transform the institution into a digital trust center for our country. And I think the reality is that our country is a bit behind in terms of the digitalization, and it is only proper when our institutions are speaking now the same language, are wanting to get this digitalization going on. And I think we must commend that, especially when it comes to the core services such as the smart IDs, your e-passports production, your online customer portals, AI-driven documents, the security systems. These are the kind of things that we are behind, and it's encouraging to see GPW getting on board, wanting to having plans in place to get this going on. And I think Chairperson as a committee must really appreciate that. But again, I want to ask that, obviously, with the planned phasing out of the green barcode and ID books, how is GPW preparing its own infrastructure to manage the increased demand? Because ultimately, that's what's going to happen. The demand for smart ID cards and e-passports. How are they planning to deal with that, with the demand? But also, I just want to find out what is the progress in with regards to automation of internal operations, such as the e-recruitment, the e-contract management, cloud-based, because all of these things, Chairperson, it's things that we've struggled a lot, and the minister, other departments, and other ministers have always been crying about the functionality of CETAs, how it's letting almost all of those departments down in terms of getting us where we should be, in terms of technology, in terms of providing the relevant infrastructure. Perhaps, maybe for both GPW and BMA, what is the status of your infrastructure, your technological infrastructure and what challenges do you have or you foresee with regards to what the minister has been complaining about, which is CETA in this instance? What is your view on it? I know that the president has also, mentioned this. There are other ways that we're trying to find as a country to not, necessarily force departments to use, CETA, so that you could be able to get to a point where you use the best and the most efficient service provider for this innovation that we need. That's my submission, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Billy. Honorable Nongonyane.
Chair and honorable members, good afternoon. Also to the presenters and our staff. And I must join you, Chair, to congratulate one of our own, Honorable Noe, who is sharing a day that we so dearly love, many of us in South Africa, because the people of South Africa in the Congress of the People 70 years ago did assembly in his province, in Gauteng rather, to pronounce that we are going to be together. Congratulations, Honorable Noah. And then, secondly, Chair, I must join my colleagues in actually thanking both the Commissioner and the CEO for their presentation. And I will then, like my colleagues, be brief. The first one, which is an excitement, I'm sure you are excited as you, Chair, on this technology and the question of drones that have been launched. And perhaps I didn't hear them much, whether since they are launching, although I would have loved to be there, but since they have launched it, in any case, did we achieve what we want to achieve? Because when we were there, Chair, as a committee, we were very horrified about the porous border. And really, and even people just playing football over Nile River and just crossing across as nobody's business. And if they could just assure us on that, but particularly in the future, whether it will cover all other areas in terms of the budget that they have presented before us. And secondly, Chair, BMA, it's exciting to hear that there is a move to collaborate with business. And if they can just open up more to indicate to us, do they have any public-private partnership sort of that is existing now with a view to monitor that. And they must also tell us if they are able at this time whether really that has yielded results. The other element, the other point, which is the last point to BMA, I've heard, and they've put some emphasis on the question of workshop, indicating that it will drive the government program to fight against corrupt officials and corruption in the country, which is commendable. But I didn't understand them clearly, whether just to convene a workshop would do that. I thought that polygraph test and other tests and even things that they are having in their system would really help if there are any undesirable element with them, they will do certain other thing rather than taking them to workshop. Perhaps they will workshop me in response to find out whether really you can go to a workshop and then get rid of your misbehavior as regards the corrupt practice. GPW and my colleagues have covered me, so I'll limit it to one issue. One of our colleagues in this, Honorable Mchoveni, did call me yesterday. She was in a Dutwa, driven to Willow Vale on the issue of incorrect entries. She's not the one, but there are many cases that I can cite. Some are close to me, but I felt I must just highlight this one. This system that the CEO is talking about to improve the system, can she assure us that it will eliminate the incorrect entry in terms of even the dates as well as the names, because we're experiencing this, especially in our rural towns and rural areas in the country. Other than that, Chair, I really appreciate and I want to indicate that I'll be dashing out from Parliament and to join you, and I may then be not be able to show my face any further in this engagement. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity. Once more, thank you, the presenters, and thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Advocate Nkosi Nonkonyane. Colleagues, let me as well join the team for appreciating both presentations. Indeed, they were insightful and there's more clarity in terms of the work that needs to be done and what we need to do throughout this 2025-2026 financial year. For BMA, Commissioner Masiapati, I want to really appreciate the fact that your presentation spoke a lot about integrated multiple disciplines. And I think as the select committee, it's one of the things that we have advocated for, to say that because of we've got budget constraints, if we can align and work together in terms as agencies, more especially law enforcement agencies, we can as well respond to issues without bothering more about budget constraints. And it is important that at least on your plans, during your strategic plan, you even dealt with the issue as it is. On the issues of digitalization, I think I'm covered by my colleagues. But again, I have the same view with Honorable Nonkonyane on the issue of ethics. I just want to make follow up and check how far are we with those that didn't want to be vetted? Do we have a backlog with regards to vetting in the organization? Because previously we had a report that some were still resisting to be vetted. So I want to check if we still have a backlog with regards to that. And if so, what is the plan to ensure that everybody in your space is vetted? Because taking them to a course, it's something else. But in the space that you are working with, if you don't have credible people, Botswana fella will be repetitively speaking about unethical culture and so on. So I want to as well acknowledge the fact that you have added an outcome based on the services that you felt that they need to be separated. And when you are presenting, it gives sense why you did separate them. And I think it's a good move to do such. For GPW, I have few questions. I have noted the issue of GBVF on your presentation, and I want to check, do you have a policy or your organization will be operating under the same policy that is there of sexual harassment in the institution, or these gender-based violence and femicide programs will be awareness or what. I want to get the picture in terms of how are you going to ensure that you do respond to the GBVF. If possible, give that in writing so that at least we get sense what is it that you will be doing. On the issue of vacancies, we would want to appreciate the fact that you would be moving in speed in terms of occupying those vacancies. But I want to call on both entities that as you do your advertisement, please, let's make sure that our adverts are very clear. People feel that now when you are not youth or woman or disabled, you cannot be employed. So please make sure that you put as well that 35 and above must apply for those opportunities, so that people who are 35 and above, they must not feel that we have buried them. So I'm pleading on both of you as entities, knowing that there are opportunities that are coming, that when you do your advert, you must make sure that you open them properly. I want to check as well on GPW. So if you have any backlog with regards to your services in terms of printing, because we didn't hear anything as well with regards to the work that you are doing with the IEC. You actually presented on DBE, Department of Home Affairs, and as well other entities, and your SADC footprint. But I didn't hear anything that has to do with the IEC. I'm not sure it's an omission or what. And I was very excited as well by the fact that your audit action plan has a program, operational program, that you are having of sitting on monthly basis. And it's something new that one has had while engaging on the program of action in terms of the audit plans. And I want to congratulate you that at least it's something that it's tangible to show that there's an appetite to deal with the issue of the recommendations by the AG. And lastly, I want to say that we are ready as the select committee to do oversight on this new building, so that at least we can touch and feel what we've been voting for. And I hope after these responses, as a team here, it will be very important that we give you that hope that come the debate of this budget vote, we will be in SANH as the collective to make sure that you do your work. And those were my questions and comments. I would now hand over to Home Affairs, and then after it will be GPW. And I have noted, colleagues, that most of the issues raised by members were comment and appreciation, but it's only one or two questions that needs to be responded to. Over to you, Commissioner Masiapata.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and we appreciate yourself, Chair, and the committee members for the questions raised. I will attempt to respond to the questions as raised, and my colleagues here will then come through to be able to do some bit of addition. And I think you were very much right that most of the pointers were fairly comments, and we really appreciate that. The first reflection is from Honorable Noah around the issue of the drones. Whether do we deploy some of those to the Lesotho border, especially in the Free State side, and of course he then mentioned Ficksburg and Kwakwa in particular. And I think we need to answer that question this way, Honorable Chair, that because of the unfortunate underfunding of the BMA, something that we are already a scratch record on, we can indicate that the drones that we've been able to procure, just with the funding that we were able to get from the criminal asset recovery account from the Ministry of Justice, we're able to procure only 2 drones. So the 2 drones, 4 drones. The 2 of the first drones were fairly for the daylight operations, and the 2 others were for night operations. So what that means in simple terms is that we are very much constrained, even in terms of that as a resource. So what have we then decided? What we then decided to do, Honorable Chair, is that We are not to have the drones in a particular port or in a particular vulnerable segment on a permanent basis. What we will then do is to move the drones from one area to the other on the basis of the, I would say, your risk modeling, as well as the intelligence that guides us about a vulnerability in a particular area. And on that particular basis, I just want to indicate that the biggest areas of concern, in as much as Lesotho ports are also of concern, mainly around issues of illegal migration, has mainly been around our northern corridor. That is the one with Zimbabwe, around your Beit Bridge. And the second one is basically the one in terms of Libombo into Mozambique. But at the same time, we do know that we have the same problem with the Lesotho side, as it were. Now, I can indicate up to this point that we have not been able to go down to the Free State side with the drones in particular, but they were mainly concentrated on the northern side as well as the eastern side up to this point. However, we are currently, Honorable Chair, finalizing a business case again to CARA for the 25-26 financial period. We do believe that we might get something out of that request. And on that basis, we will definitely be able to procure more drones. And those will then be able to assist us around the issue of spreading them into all of the other areas. Yes, indeed, Honorable Noe, we are aware that on the Lesotho side, because there's not even a physical barrier, it becomes very much difficult for our officials on the ground as they do the work that side, because it is really very much difficult, as it were. But in this particular instance, the level and the nature of the work that we've been given is very, very big. But of course, the resources that we have is very, very minute. It is for that reason, Honorable Chair, as we had emphasized, we have to then bring in other sister and brotherly organizations such as your SNDF, as well as the police, to assist us in implementing border law enforcement. And that is how we are trying to address these particular issues. And of course, just to also give Honorable Noe the comfort that we, in the Interministerial Consultative Committee meeting on border management that took place 2 days ago, the Minister of Agriculture, Minister Steenhuisen, emphasized the issues that are raised by the farmers, even in terms of the border between ourselves and Lesotho, and of course around the Free State area, but also in the KZN and Eastern Cape area. And on that basis, we had committed that there is going to be a delegation led at the ministerial level for us to go to the ground and be able to engage with those border communities as well as the farmers, and be able to advance collaboration, to be able to work with them so that they can be able to interface directly with our border guards on the ground, so that they're able to improve the response time, especially when there are challenges on the ground. So those are some of the interventions that we've been doing up to this point. So, Honorable Chair, let's reflect a bit on the issue raised by Honorable Billy. And I think in this particular instance, the issue around automation, we had been emphasizing automation, Honorable Chair, because we are very much scanty in terms of financing. So on that basis, we have made sure that we had to bring in technology to be able to augment the work that we do. So on that particular basis, the Honorable Member is asking, what are the key business processes that we are looking at automating? So one of the issues that we can emphasize, Honorable Chair, just in terms of the back office work, we had to automate a lot of work in terms of the support work, meaning the back office work. That includes issues relating to, for example, the performance management systems that we had to do in the background. We had to automate even the issues of the claims. As an example, when our officials work and get claims and all of those work on weekends or work on holidays, they had to then put in that on the system instead of some spreadsheet to be driven to head office for capturing and all of that, which is what was happening with the department. So we procured a system called SAGE, which actually has what we call ESS, which is Employee Self-Service. And that actually has assisted us to be able to automate a lot of administrative work in the back office, instead of having a lot of people who are supposed to be doing those manual works or manual jobs, as it were. Now, in the medium term, Honorable Billy, in terms of the systems that we have identified, we are looking at the front end system. And here is what we then refer to the biometric movement control system, where we are going to be emphasizing, the bringing in of your facial recognition, as well as your iris, which is basically the use of an eye for recognition purposes. So that is what we are actually emphasizing. And that is why even the minister is driving a process through the bringing in of what you call ETA, which is electronic traveler authorization, which will then enable people when they arrive at the port, particularly at the airport, because that is where we are going to start, to make sure that that process gets automated so that we can be able to address the shortage that we experience in terms of immigration officers and allow people to be able to use electronic modeling in terms of entering the country, particularly South Africans returning back home, but also those people that are actually categorized as trusted travelers. All of these are the issues that we are working very hard on. And by the way, we are looking at implementing some of this before the G20 kicks in around November this year. So that is the work that we are doing. Your last question, Honorable Billy, is about how far are we with the installation of the BMCS. What we want to say to the committee members on this particular aspect is that because of the network challenges that we've inherited from Home Affairs, particularly in terms of systems relating to people movement, and on the issue that those systems were being administered by CETA, unfortunately, we had to slow down in the rolling out of the biometric movement control system because it needed a lot of bandwidth. And it was on that basis that we realized that the more we bring in that system, the network becomes very much under pressure. And that is why we are now kickstarting the conversation. And that is why we are talking about the need for some bit of financial injection for us to be able to activate that thing that we call the LAN and the WAN, the local aerial network as well as the wider aerial network. We are very much hopeful that we will get something from CARA, which will then enable us to be able to deal with the issues. But we are also very much, we just want to encourage yourselves, Honorable Chair, and the committee members as you go into the discussions around budgetary issues, that there should then be some bit of, escalation or some bit of noise around the financing of the BMA. And the reason why we are amplifying this issue is not because compared to the Defense Force or the police or any other, they used to have a budget and the challenge was the cut. So BMA did not have any. It's just that we just got people who came with their salaries, and that is why we are sitting at 90% as salaries, and we have only 10% or so to operate the organization. That makes life very much difficult, and that is basically the essence. In terms of Honorable Nkosi Nonkonyane, the issue about the drones, have we been able to achieve what these drones are supposed to be assisting us with? We can really talk almost until the afternoon in terms of the kind of successes. But let me just quickly map this out, Honorable Chair. The drones had been very much helpful. One of the basic things that they assisted us with is to bring in work that is cost effective. So what it means that in practical terms is that if you don't have drones, it means the border guards will be on those land cruisers and burning diesel literally the whole day, patrolling throughout the vulnerable segments, coming to the port and going back to vulnerable segments, literally just patrolling. So what that means is that the cost, therefore, of those patrols has been very heavy on us. Now, with the drones, what we do is we deploy the drones on air. We are able to monitor the movements and the activities. And then the border guards then become static in very critical areas. And we are then able to activate them through the push-to-talk devices that goes together with their body cameras, and be able to say, in this particular area, there are 5 people who just cross in illegally, move in and intercept. So on that basis, the movement becomes a targeted movement that is actually happening with information, and that is able to assist us. It is for that reason that we can confirm that just in the period of the April period, we're able to arrest around 114 facilitators. And these are the people who facilitate the movement of illegal people across the borders. And for these ones, after we arrested them across the ports, we don't deport these ones. We take them to the police station and charge them for aiding and abetting according to the Immigration Act, and ultimately make sure that they face the might of the law on the South African side. Our understanding is the more you arrest the facilitators, the more you'll start to have some traction in terms of dealing with illegal migration, because many people will not go into the bush by themselves. except that they get facilitated. And that is why that has been our strategy to deal with the issues, as it were. In terms of the collaboration with business, Kosi, yes, we do collaborate with business, and that collaboration is not necessarily just an issue that we decide on. It is provided for in Section 5, subsection C of the BMA Act, that we have to collaborate. Hence, I've also spoken about collaborating even with the farmers around the environment. In terms of the public-private partnerships, the big one that is coming is the infrastructure-based one, which we are going to be doing in terms of the redesigning and redevelopment of our top 6 commercial ports that we are going to do with the private partners, which are going to be announced during the course of this year to be able to deal with that. Let me quickly then conclude with this aspect, Honorable Chair, which you have already asked, the issue about ethics workshops. I think one thing that we can agree on, Honorable Chair, is that if you check most of the people, and by the way, we have really been, although it's a sad thing, but we've been catching a few of our officials and we've been firing them. And some of them, you find that they literally get fired for having taken just 20 rand from some illegal person in the port, as it were. And that we understand it, that because the environment has been kind of neglected in a way, some of the people don't even understand the implication of all of these things that they're doing. So we then thought that just being reactive by catching people, firing them, is not necessarily that productive. It is for that reason that we created this partnership with the Special Investigating Unit, and we established Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum. And the pillar 1 of it is about what we call proactive measures, and the proactive measures is embedded on ethics training as well as ethics workshops. So what does that mean? It means that we sit down with our officials, the experts talk to them to give them the impression, to give them the understanding of the implication of them doing these things that are actually illegal. And by the way, one thing that we've also done, very much important, we have also been partnering with the Department of Correctional Services by bringing some of the officials that are serving time in prison through correctional services that have actually been doing this work before. And they're able to come in and talk to the officials and say, you see myself, I'm in prison now, I'm serving because I took 200 from a foreign national, I facilitated that person into the country. As we speak, I lost my family, I lost everything, and what. So those are the kind of interventions that we are bringing in for the purposes of being proactive in dealing with these issues. However, by the BMA Act Section 13.3, we do vetting, and the vetting is being done by the State Security Agency as provided for in the National Intelligence Act, as it were. So we are actually doing all. We are not doing one and leave the other. The only unfortunate one is the lifestyle audit. We had planned to do lifestyle audit in this current financial year, but just with the 100 people we wanted to start with, it was to cost us 9 million from the Special Investigating Unit. On that basis, because of financial issues, we then slowed down on lifestyle audit. But in terms of vetting, we are continuing to do vetting, as it were. And also just to clarify that there's not been challenges in terms of the officials refusing to be vetted, because in the BMA, vetting is provided for in the BMA Act. It's not like in the department. In the department, there was no legal provision that actually allowed the department to do vetting in as far as those individuals are concerned. Maybe let me then stop there, Honorable Chair, but also just to indicate that the nature of the backlog on the vetting is just because of the numbers of the people that we have, because we are around 2,600, and we have completed the forms, the Z forms that are required by the State Security Agency. So on that basis, the backlog is more on their side as they keep on coming through to do the process, as it were. And we are very much hopeful that in the course of this financial year, we will have made some better strides, as it were. But of course, SSA is a bit overstretched because they are not only vetting us, but they are vetting the rest of the ecosystem in as far as this process is concerned. So, Honorable Chair, let me then allow any of my colleagues to come through and add if I have missed anything, and then we'll be able to take it from there. Thanks, Chair.
Permission granted. Over to your colleague.
Maybe the CTO, if you want to reflect on issues of ICT. AC Managa. No, it is fine, Honorable. Oh yeah, I think AC Mkabela is coming through. AC Mkabela, come through.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon, Chair and committee members.
Can we see you? Can you see you first before you say thank you and what very much?
Okay. Let me.
We want to see those pajamas. Can we see you say?
Am I visible, Chair?
Okay, we can see you. Can switch off then and respond.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairperson. No, I just wanted to add on the surveillance, drone surveillance within the central region, that is on the Lesotho borderline, to say currently we are training 2 of our border law enforcement officers as drones pilots. They should be concluding their training on the 4th of July. Once they are concluded with their training, we're going to allocate at least 1 drone to be stationed at Maseru Bridge, and it will serve Maseru and Fitzbach in the main as one of our vulnerable segments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. We can now go to GPW.
Chairperson, thank you so much. And honorable members, I really want to take this opportunity to appreciate all the comments and the questions that have been raised in our direction. We're really taking them in the spirit of building the organization so that we can even do better going into the future. So we really thank members for all the comments that we've received. Honorable Chair, if you allow me to just nudge some of our officials who have been quiet on the platform to also get an opportunity to be celebrities and show their faces on the platform, Chair, through your permission, so that they can be able to assist in responding to some of the questions. Through your permission, can I ask them to do that, Chair?
Permission granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Kuben Moodley, I think it will be important for you to respond to the question of how do we prevent fraud and corruption, basically reflecting on our capacity and capability to prevent fraudulent documents out there through printing, because that issue has been raised by Honorable Noe. Happy birthday, Tate Noe. Let me join the chairperson in doing that. So it will be important to know how we do that. So I think I'll leave that to your space so that you can be able to respond. On the issue of from Honorable Mokai of we movement to a new facility and whether we will be accommodating officials as well as our machinery there. Let me just take the first bite, and I think GM Corporate might add should she wish to do so. We have a footprint, Chair, across the provinces, but our head office is in Pretoria. We've had 2 in Bosman Street as well as in Fisaki. But in view of the impending move out of Bosman into the Fisaki building, Fisaki will then assume the status of being our head office. In the Fisaki building, that's where we have the massive printing facility that Honorable Mugai has spoken to. That's where we print IDs and passports, and that's where the national key point is actually located. The new headquarters building is just across the current Fisaki Street office. So we've adopted a precinct approach. So that precinct will accommodate the new headquarters building. Then we have the existing printing facility, and we were hoping to expand it into the master plan that the CFO spoke to, that we'll be repurposing to make sure that we do accommodate other printing streams in that precinct. So it will basically be the administrative headquarters, the one that we will be opening in the next month or 2, just to make sure that all the administrative staff who have been located in the Bosman office then moves into that administrative headquarters. The printing staff will move into the commercial printing side, and others will move into Fisaki where the actual machines are, depending on, of course, their trades as well as competencies. So I need to also mention, and I think I mentioned this in the previous presentation, in the Bosman office, we also have some printing machines, but most of those are old and obsolete. If you want to drive digital transformation, you can't go and fetch a machine that was manufactured 40 years ago. The capacity and capability is already constrained, so you won't be able to do much, especially if you are forward-looking. So we are going to make sure that we dispose those and make sure that the revenue we get from there is then used in-house to be able to run our operations. So I thought I should just clarify that one. Because Honorable Billy, we appreciate your comments. And again, Mr. Moodley, the question that came was, how are we preparing ourselves in terms of infrastructure and operations as Home Affairs ramps up the applications for the smart ID card and phases out the green barcoded ID? How are we readying ourselves in the back end to make sure that we are ready to deliver on the demand from our customers? And similarly, CIO, there was also a question on the status of our tech refresh in terms of infrastructure and innovation, despite the SITA challenges, how we are actually doing with the automation of the internal processes. We've started with the e-submission, e-invoice, as well as e-contract management. I guess it talks to the implementation of our ICT strategy and the maturity levels that I've mentioned as well earlier on. So perhaps that I will give to you to respond to. Honorable Nongonyani, thank you for your question. Chair, I just need to humbly request. I got the question of incorrect entries, including dates and names. I was not sure of the context, whether it's referring to IDs as well as passports. And I guess some clarity there would be required so that those people who are in the rural areas who are impacted by unauthorized or incorrect entries, we can then be able to respond to that and be able to clarify whether it falls within Home Affairs portfolio in terms of Home Affairs Department itself or the GPW portfolio as well. Chair, to answer to your questions, and thank you so much for raising those questions with us. In terms of gender-based violence and femicide, we as GPW internally have been having a sexual harassment policy, and that had been implemented. However, we are in the process of reviewing that. The DPSA in particular has issued guidelines called the Policy and Procedure on the Management of Sexual Harassment in the Public Service. We are aligning ourselves to the spirit of those policy procedures, but also we're drawing strength from the National Strategic Plan on GBV that was launched recently, 2020 to 2030, so that we cover all aspects of harassment and not just look at sexual. And I think the positioning is to make sure that whatever form of harassment in the workplace, we should be able to deal with. So the revised policy will actually cover all those. In terms of the adverts, yes, we do accommodate different vulnerable groups. We would then, especially because DPSA also does advise, you'll have a wheelchair to show that people with disabilities are actually allowed. And then we do have statements that says people from this category are encouraged to apply, women, young people, as well as the youth. So we do have that. But we also have our developmental programs that I spoke to, where we are trying to build our acceleration workforce, where we can be able to draw from them when we have a need for skills. So we work with organizations like Printing SA, and then they are able to also come and train officials on site to get practical experience. And then amongst those developmental programs, we are able to attract the youth, the women, as well as people with disabilities. So I think on that, we will take also counsel, and we will be able to continue with that based on your comments there. In terms of printing backlogs, it looks like Mtate Moodley is going to be much of a celebrity today. We actually are having weekly meetings with the Home Affairs Department, the DG and the team, to look into the backlogs that we have, and we are able to then identify challenges and address them. But I think from our side as GPW, Mr. Moodley will actually confirm the status. And maybe the audit action plan issue, CFO, in terms of the actions that we're taking with TIACO, audit TIACO on a weekly basis, just to make sure that we implement and resolve the audit findings. I think that I will leave to you so that you can be able to respond. And Chair, finally, we would be glad to welcome you as soon as the building is completed. Through our minister, we will extend an invite so that on that day you can also be present, and we will be very happy to take you through our facility, the printing facility, which is in the National Key Point, to show you the different sections of our machines and the officials, and you will also get an opportunity to interact with our officials as well as the executive that who are not part of the meeting today. So we will really do, through our minister, extend that invite. Chair, maybe without belaboring some of the matters, let me just ask those, Mr. Moodley as well as the CIO and the CFO to respond. And perhaps if I left out anything else, the GM corporate services can also come in through you, Chairperson. Thank you. Mr. Moodley.
Thank you, CIO. Thank you, Honourable Chair and members. On the matter of security of products, I think that's where I would like to start, Chair. Our security products, our high security products, are manufactured using 4 very important principles. One is that the physical material that's used must not be readily available and obtainable in the market over the counter, if you want to use that comment. We must use a combination of security materials that cannot be easily obtained or cannot be obtained at all. And we have achieved that in our high security products, most certainly in our the paper we use in certain matters, the polycarbonate foundational material, the chips, as well as other security materials that we incorporate in the making of a smart ID card, for example. The second part is the process that we use. We have to enable that bespoke processes and make sure that the process design is bespoke and unique to us as the government printing works. So it cannot be replicated by other entities, illicit or not, or other countries easily either, because we have to also think beyond just the illicit criminal side. There's also other markets that may want to reproduce it, not to name any. But in this respect, we secure it by designing a process that's not easily obtainable. It does give us our challenges in terms of making sure that we have government procurement in order and we are within all regulations and maintaining it well. But we have to enable bespoke processes in our designs to keep that quite unique and secure. The third part is our unique skills. Now, these processes and this material, if we want them as unique and bespoke, it means that we train those staff and those artisans and those tradespeople that operate these equipment. It's not completely manual. It's highly automated processes, but we cannot ignore the fact that when we want a quality product, it's a combination of automated equipment, machinery, and the human skill that can never be replaced in certain matters. And it's important that we have a combination approach when it comes to skills and ensuring that we keep those skills, retain those skills, and attract those skills when needed. And the last portion, the fourth portion, is our unique and secure data management infrastructure. We have to manage data securely. So when we put those four things together in collaboration with the Department of Home Affairs, you then have a product that is truly secure and has integrity of it compared to any other high security product globally. And we believe very much that by enabling those 4 areas in our current products, like the ID card, the passport, and quite a range of our certification, we are achieving quite big strides in ensuring security of the actual product. In terms of the capacity, and then maybe I must jump straight to that, phasing out, Honourable Billy, you asked about the phasing out of the Green ID book and how we are preparing ourselves. We've prepared quite flexible and agile capacity over the past 11 or going on to 12 years now of producing the Smart ID card. But it's obviously not unconstrained. It cannot just balloon to anything that would be required. We're currently relying heavily on our machine efficiencies and the recapitalization of our equipment over the time as they reach the end of life to ensure that we have a stable capacity. But in addition to that, the effort on the two-shift system is what is going to propel us into ensuring that we can meet this demands now at this point in time, because we know this demand cannot be forever constant. It will be a time when we will be replacing the green ID book, and then we must be able to be agile enough to reduce our capacity and not have any waste or wasteful expenditure when it comes to just unused capacity. So we have to be cautious with that and be careful and understanding the timeline with replacing the ID book. IT infrastructure is important in that capacity increase because it's a supportive function, and all the other supporting functions, recruitment, procurement, and making sure that every other input towards this capacity increase is running optimally, because it's not only about the center of a machine, it's also about everything that's around it. So that's how we are preparing the capacity increase over the next period into this MTDP. And then we would then look at further to the MTDP, how do we then slowly, agilely reduce our capacity so that we can now maintain that production as it goes on for replacement of IDs or new entrants like 16-year-olds to that. In terms of the, I think Sierra did comment on the commercial printing facility. We are segregating facilities so that we also have focused areas and secure areas. In terms of backlogs, we can report that we're happily maintaining our production status with IDs and passports at a very, very good turnaround time and optimal turnaround time. Even though there has been an increased demand over the last year, a phenomenal increase in demand over the last year, we managed to meet that demand without significant backlogs or non-production. We currently are in a 5-day period of turnaround time within all passports and IDs that we have that are put before us by the Department of Home Affairs. We have to report that obviously there are some issues that are being addressed. In other words, long outstanding applications system-wise coming through from the Department of Home Affairs, our colleagues at DHA, that can get stuck in the process, and so we collaborate, working together with them to make sure that no applications that come to the GPW would get stuck in the higher level IT process and application process. But we are quite confident that the products that we are producing are not backlogged. The same way, the capacity increase using the shift pattern that you asked about as well, Chair, is going to give us a far better enablement. In other words, responding to customers in a shorter period of time for items like our high security certificates, our examinations, and many other commercial printed products. So from that point of view, we will always be more agile with that shift work. The question of the shift work and approval, just to provide some information on that, we are spending the next quarter working on stakeholder engagements so that we get some type of framework approval for this shift pattern, because it is a change of working arrangement and working times, and it needs proper engagement and stakeholder management for that, stakeholder engagement for that. Sorry, around quarter 3 to quarter 4, we're looking at the framework adoption and making sure that the framework is costed well, it's paid well, and can be administered correctly from a single shift to a double shift. And we believe that in the same period we have sufficient resources, or we would be able to have sufficient resources to enable a pilot in the shift pattern. One of the key dependencies there, Chair, is this high vacancy rate that we have. We cannot recruit all of those staff instantly over the next 2 quarters or so. So there is going to be a gradual progression in the recruitment, with items like IDs, passports, which are now in demand, being the first, and examinations, and then following with certificates, for example, to make sure that the high security products and security products are given that priority for capacity because of the impact on service delivery. I think those were the items that was it for response from my point of view. I'll hand back to you, Chair, to CEO as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, you have dealt with most of the issues that were asked, and I want to check if CEO, you have somebody to point to, or can I conclude?
Okay. Chair, maybe the final one from the CIO. I take it that CFO, the issue of the Stieko was just to appreciate that we are doing it. So maybe the last one, in the interest of time, Chair, through you, would be from the CIO on the infrastructure, technological infrastructure. Thanks, Chair.
Right.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, in terms of good day, honorable members, and thank you, CEO. Chairperson, in terms of ICT, the state of our ICT infrastructure, we have a dilapidated ICT infrastructure since the incident of 4th February 2021 that we are responding from, and the ministerial report captures that very well. We have made progress following the recommendations, and so far we have employed cloud platforms in line with the directives that are issued by Minister for Public Service and in line with MRP recommendations that we need to start utilizing such platforms. They have given us stability in terms of ensuring that we are able to provide service and offer the required high availability in terms of ICT services. This assisted us on administrative applications and not on the core services of GPW. We are engaging into acquiring private cloud platforms, and we are also improving on the backup processes. In terms of maybe the impact on backup processes, we even had material irregularity. The progress that we are making, it has improved. We are in agreement with AGSA as well that they are seeing significant improvement, including our internal audit as well. So we have started replacing the dilapidated infrastructure. We are continuing to digitalize the capability that was lost from the ERP system that crashed. We are at the point, as the CEO has reported, that we finalized to procure the software. We will be finalizing to get professional services. Possibly around August, October, we will start migrating the current dilapidated financial system into the new ERP platform. So there is good progress, and the ICT strategy currently focuses mainly on improving the digital capabilities, and it focuses more internally to say, let's stabilize operations and business processes within GPW. Equally, we are putting efforts to now reposition ourselves to support the direction that GPW is taking in terms of repositioning its business mission, values, and objectives. We're working very well in achieving that, utilizing the procurement channels that are available, including going out on tender, participating in other tenders that are available as well. I think the CEO has mentioned that we also starting to participate in the Home Affairs tender on electronic records management. These are key projects. They are overwhelming with limited capacity that we have, but we're soldiering on. We are happy that we are able to get additional recruitment processes so that we are able to get additional staff that will assist us in delivering this mission. In terms of SETA challenges, we do have the challenges, but we do have as well frequent meetings with SETA to relay these challenges. We are able to possibly get some kind of assistance and support so far. Where there are penalties, we agree with SETA and execute those penalties. Chairperson, I think that covers the questions that were asked. I would like to pause here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guiba, and for keeping your video on. The world have seen you. that you are like ICT, you are a young person behind the system. With that being said, to BMA and GPW, we want to thank you for your extensive information that is insightful, that is going to assist us to have foresight and do our oversight continuously up until the end of the next financial year. We want to thank you and we wish you well in your new plans. And we have noted, Commissioner, that you are saying that for the next financial year, you're anticipating to conduct lifestyle audit. I want to wish you well, because here in Gauteng, when the Premier announced it, people thought that he's joking, it's populism. And now, because of after the results, there's consequence management, they are saying something else. So I want to wish you well, that when you conduct that lifestyle audit, you must know it's not going to be nice, but you must soldier on and keep the institution intact. We want to employ to all of you colleagues that keep on maintaining these cultural change and ethical conduct of high standard in your institutions, so that at least we are able to focus to things that we have to in terms of ensuring that we better the lives of our people. I want to acknowledge the inputs made by members, and it makes me light to believe that as we will be engaging on the budget vote of these two entities, we won't have a hassle in terms of approving and make sure that you do your work as entities. With that being said, I declare this meeting officially adjourned, and I wish you all well. And so I hope that you're not going to mess up this day. It's going just to be a day. Action. So I hope all of you are ready to come down to Gauteng. The Premier is waiting to come and welcome you tomorrow, members of the Select Committee, Petition and Undertakings. So without being said, the meeting is officially adjourned. The home of champions, I'm waiting for you. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you.
Long
Bye-bye.
live the chair.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.